Welcome subscribers to Sleep Stories. Today we are listening to True Story The Beneath. I am your host Aiden, and I will take you along this horror journey. The wind howled through the skeletal branches of the ancient oaks, their gnarled limbs clawing at the bruised purple sky. It was late October, and the air in the small town of Eleanor carried a chill that seemed to seep into the bones, whispering of secrets best left buried. Clara Henshaw, a woman in her early 30s with sharp gray eyes and a tangle of chestnut hair tucked beneath a woolen scarf, sat in the driver's seat of her battered station wagon, peering through the windshield at the faded welcome sign. Eleanor established, 1783. The paint was peeling, and the wood was splintered, as if the town itself were trying to erase its own name. Clara's hands tightened on the steering wheel, her knuckles whitening. She hadn't wanted to come here. The letter from her estranged aunt, Margaret Henshaw, had arrived 3 weeks ago, its spidery handwriting trembling across yellowed stationery. Margaret, whom Clara hadn't seen since she was a child, had written of an urgent need for her presence at Henshaw House, the family's ancestral home on the outskirts of Eleanor. The letter was vague, mentioning only matters of inheritance and a cryptic warning. The house is restless, Clara. It needs you. There was no phone number, no email, just an address and a plea to come quickly. Clara had ignored it at first. She was a freelance illustrator in Boston, scraping by on commissions for children's books and the occasional magazine cover. Her life was small but manageable, and she had no desire to dredge up the murky waters of her family's past. The Henshaws were a fractured clan, scattered by old grudges and unspoken tragedies. Clara's mother had fled Eleanor when Clara was 6, refusing to speak of the town or the house. "It's a place that eats you," her mother had said once, her voice low and haunted. Clara had pressed for more, but her mother's lips had sealed shut, and the subject was buried. But the letter gnawed at her. It wasn't just the words. It was the faint scent of lavender and mildew that clung to the paper, the way the ink seemed to shimmer faintly in the light, as if it were still wet. Against her better judgment, Clara had packed a suitcase, locked her apartment, and driven north through the winding roads of New England, where the forests grew denser and the towns grew quieter. Until she reached Eleanor, the town was a ghost of itself. The main street, barely 2 blocks long, was lined with sagging storefronts, their windows dark or boarded up. A single gas station flickered with a neon open sign, its light stuttering like a dying heartbeat. Clara's car rolled past a diner called Maze, where a lone waitress leaned against the counter, staring out at the empty street. A church steeple loomed at the far end of town, its bells silent but ominous, as if waiting for a reason to toll. Clara followed the directions scrawled in her aunt's letter, turning off the main road onto a narrow lane that twisted into the woods. The trees closed in around her, their branches scraping the roof of the car like fingers testing its strength. The road was unpaved, rutted with years of neglect, and the station wagon jolted over the uneven ground, its headlights cutting through the gathering dusk. Clara's stomach churned with unease. She told herself it was just the isolation, the strangeness of being so far from the city. But there was something else, a pressure in the air, like the world was holding its breath. Henshaw House came into view as she rounded a bend. It was a sprawling, Gothic monstrosity. 3 stories of weathered stone and ivy-choked walls, with narrow windows that glinted like eyes in the fading light. The roof sagged in places, and the chimneys leaned precariously, as if the house itself were tired of standing. A wrought iron gate, rusted and half open, marked the entrance to the property. Clara stopped the car and stared, her heart thudding. The house looked alive, in a way she couldn't explain, like it was watching her, waiting. She stepped out of the car, her boots crunching on the gravel drive. The air was colder here, sharper, carrying the scent of damp earth and something metallic, like old blood. She shivered, pulling her coat tighter, and retrieved her suitcase from the trunk. The gate creaked as she pushed it open, its hinges screaming in protest. A stone path led to the front door, flanked by overgrown rose bushes, their thorns gleaming in the twilight. Clara hesitated at the door, a heavy oak slab carved with intricate patterns that seemed to shift when she looked too long. She raised her hand to knock, then froze. From inside came a sound of low, rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat echoing through the walls. It stopped as abruptly as it began, leaving only the whistle of the wind. Clara's mouth went dry. She knocked, the sound sharp and hollow. The door opened almost immediately, revealing a woman in her late 60s, her face lined but regal, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun. Margaret Henshaw wore a black dress that seemed to belong to another era, its lace collar stiff and pristine. Her eyes, the same gray as Clara's, were sharp and unblinking, like a bird of prey. "Clara," Margaret said, her voice low and smooth, with a faint tremor of relief. "You came." Clara forced a smile, her unease growing. "Aunt Margaret, it's been a long time. Too long." Margaret stepped aside, gesturing for Clara to enter. "Come in. The house is cold, but we'll manage." The foyer was cavernous, its ceiling lost in shadow. A chandelier hung overhead, its crystals dulled by dust, swaying slightly, though there was no breeze. The air was thick with the smell of old wood and something sour, like spoiled fruit. A grand staircase spiraled upward, its banister carved, with vines and flowers that seemed to writhe in the dim light. Portraits lined the walls, their subjects staring down with hollow eyes. Henshaw's long dead, Clara assumed, though their faces bore an unsettling resemblance to her own. "You must be tired," Margaret said, closing the door with a heavy thud. "It's a long drive from Boston. I've prepared a room for you upstairs." Clara nodded, clutching her suitcase. "Thank you. I wasn't sure what to expect. Your letter was a bit vague." Margaret's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "Some things are better explained in person. Come, let's have tea before you settle in. There's much to discuss." Clara followed her aunt through a maze of corridors, each lined with more portraits and faded tapestries. The house was a labyrinth, its walls groaning softly as if settling under an unseen weight. They passed a parlor with a grand piano, its keys yellowed and silent, and a library where bookshelves sagged under the weight of ancient tomes. Clara's artist's eye caught details, the intricate molding on the ceilings, the way the floorboards seemed to ripple underfoot, the faint scratches on the walls. Like claw marks, they reached a small sitting room, its windows draped with heavy velvet curtains that blocked out the last of the daylight. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows across the room. A tea tray sat on a low table, the porcelain cups, chipped but elegant. Margaret poured tea with steady hands, though Clara noticed a faint tremble in her fingers. "Sit," Margaret said, indicating a wing-back chair. "You look like your mother, you know. Same eyes, same stubborn jaw." Asterisk, Clara sat, the chair creaking under her weight. You knew her well, better than she'd admit. Margaret handed her a cup, the tea steaming and fragrant with bergamot. "Eleanor was my younger sister. She left Eldamore when you were young, but she never told you why, did she?" Clara shook her head, the old wound of her mother's silence stinging. "She didn't talk about this place, or you." Margaret's eyes darkened. "That doesn't surprise me. Eleanor was always running from things she couldn't face. But you're here now, and that's what matters." Clara sipped her tea, the warmth doing little to ease the chill in her bones. "Your letter mentioned an inheritance, and something about the house being restless." Margaret leaned back, her gaze fixed on the fire. "Henshaw House is more than a building, Clara. It's a legacy. Our family has lived here for centuries, tied to this land in ways you can't yet understand. When your mother left, she broke that tie, but it's not so easily severed. The House ... It remembers. Clara frowned, the words unsettling her. Remembers. It's just a house, is it? Margaret's voice was sharp, her eyes glinting. You've felt it already, haven't you? The weight in the air, the way the shadows move when you're not looking. Clara's pulse quickened. She wanted to dismiss it as nonsense, but she couldn't shake the memory of the thumping sound, the way the house seemed to watch her. I'm not sure what I felt, she said carefully. It's an old place. Old houses creak. Margaret's laugh was low and mirthless. Oh, it's more than creaks, my dear, but you'll see soon enough. The inheritance I spoke of isn't just money or land. It's a responsibility, a burden. Clara set her cup down, her unease growing. What kind of burden? Margaret didn't answer immediately. She rose and crossed to a small cabinet, retrieving a leather-bound book, its cover worn and cracked. She placed it on the table between them, her fingers lingering on the embossed title, The Hollow Beneath. This was written by her great-grandfather, Elias Henshaw, Margaret said. It tells the history of this house and what lies beneath system. Clara's eyes flicked to the book, its title sending a shiver down her spine. What do you mean, what lies beneath? Margaret's expression grew solemn, her voice dropping to a near whisper. The house was built on something ancient, Clara. Something that was here long before the Henshaws, before Eldermore itself. Elias called it the Hollow, a place where the world is thin, where things that should not exist can slip through. Our family has guarded it for generations, keeping it sealed. But the seal is weakening, and the house knows it. Clara's mouth went dry. She wanted to laugh, to dismiss it as the ramblings of an eccentric old woman. But the weight of Margaret's words pressed against her chest. The fire in the hearth flared suddenly, casting long shadows that danced across the walls like grasping hands. That sounds like a fairy tale, she said, her voice shakier than she intended. Or a ghost story. It's no story, Margaret replied, her gaze unwavering. You'll feel it tonight, when the house is quiet. The Hollow speaks in the dark. It always has. Clara opened her mouth to argue, but a sudden noise cut her off, a low, guttural groan, like the earth itself shifting beneath the house. The teacups rattled on the tray, and the chandelier above swayed, its crystals clinking softly. Clara's heart pounded as she glanced at Margaret, who sat perfectly still, her face unreadable. What was that? Clara whispered. Margaret's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. The house, welcoming you. The rest of the evening passed in a haze of unease. Margaret showed Clara to her room on the second floor, a cavernous space with a four-poster bed draped in faded velvet, a heavy armoire, and a window overlooking the dark expanse of the forest. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of dust and time. Margaret left her with a single candle and a warning to keep the door locked, her tone suggesting it was more than a precaution against intruders. Clara unpacked her suitcase, her movements mechanical, as she tried to shake off the growing sense of dread. She placed her sketchbook on the bedside table, a habit from years of late-night drawing to calm her nerves. The room was silent, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards and the distant howl of the wind outside. She changed into pajamas, her skin prickling as if someone were watching her, and climbed into bed, pulling the heavy quilt up to her chin. Sleep didn't come easily. The darkness in the room felt alive, pressing against her eyelids, filling her ears with a faint hum that wasn't quite sound. She lay still, listening, her breath shallow. Then she heard it, a faint scratching, like nails dragging across wood, coming from beneath the floor. It was slow at first, deliberate, then faster, more insistent. Clara's heart raced as she sat up, clutching the quilt. The candle flickered, casting wild shadows across the walls. "Hello," she called softly, her voice trembling. The scratching stopped, replaced by a low, resonant thump, like a heartbeat echoing through the house. It came again, then again, growing louder, closer. Clara's eyes darted to the door, still locked, but the sound wasn't coming from there. It was beneath her, deep in the bowels of the house. She slid out of bed, her bare feet cold against the floorboards, and grabbed the candle. The flame wavered as she moved, casting her shadow in distorted shapes. The scratching resumed, now accompanied by a faint whisper, like voices too soft to understand. Clara's breath hitched as she knelt by the floor, pressing her ear to the wood. The whispers grew clearer, a chorus of murmurs that seemed to call her name. Clara, ... Clara, ... She jerked back, her heart hammering. The candle flame sputtered, nearly going out. The room felt smaller, the walls closer, as if the house itself were tightening around her. She stumbled to the door, fumbling with the lock, and flung it open, half expecting to see Margaret or some other figure in the hallway. But the corridor was empty, lit only by the faint glow of a single sconce at the far end. The whispers followed her, soft but persistent, echoing from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Clara's pulse thundered in her ears as she backed into the room, slamming the door shut and locking it again. She pressed her back against it, the candle trembling in her hand. The whispers faded, replaced by silence so heavy it felt like a physical weight. She didn't sleep that night. She sat on the bed, the candle burning low, her sketchbook open but untouched. Every creak, every gust of wind made her flinch. The house was alive. She was sure of it now, and it was watching her, waiting for something she didn't understand. The next morning, Clara found Margaret in the kitchen, a surprisingly modern space with a gas stove and a cracked linoleum floor. The older woman was preparing breakfast scrambled eggs and toast, the smell comforting but out of place in the oppressive atmosphere of the house. Clara sat at the table, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, and recounted what she'd heard in the night. Margaret listened without surprise, her expression calm but guarded. "The Hollow is restless," she said, setting a plate in front of Clara. "It senses you're here." A Henshaw returned after so long. Clara pushed the eggs around her plate, her appetite gone. "You keep talking about this hollow, but what? Is it? A basement? A metaphor?" Margaret sat across from her hands folded neatly. "It's no metaphor. There's a chamber beneath the house, sealed long ago by Elias Henshaw. He built this place to contain it, to keep what's inside from spreading. But the seal isn't perfect. It never was." Clara's throat tightened. "And what's inside?" Margaret's eyes met hers, cold and unflinching. "Something that doesn't belong in this world. Something that wants out." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Clara wanted to laugh, to demand proof, but the memory of the whispers, the heartbeat in the dark, stopped her. She pushed her plate away and stood. "I want to see it. This chamber, or whatever it is." Margaret's face hardened. "Not yet. You're not ready." "Ready for what?" Clara snapped, her frustration boiling over. "You dragged me here with some cryptic letter. Tell me the house is alive, and now you're keeping secrets. If I'm supposed to take on some burden, I deserve to know what it is." Margaret rose, her movements slow and deliberate. "You'll know when the time comes. For now, stay out of the cellar, and don't wander the house at night." Clara opened her mouth to argue, but another sound interrupted her, a sharp, metallic clang from somewhere deep in the house. Both women froze, their eyes meeting. The clang came again, louder, followed by a low guttural moan that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Margaret's face paled, her composure cracking for the first time. "It's awake," she whispered. Clara's blood ran cold. "What's awake?" But Margaret was already moving, grabbing a heavy iron key from a hook on the wall. "Stay here," she ordered, her voice sharp. "Don't follow me." Clara watched as her aunt disappeared through a door at the far end of the kitchen, the key clutched in her hand. The clang echoed again, followed by a sound like footsteps slow, deliberate, and far too heavy to be human. Clara's heart pounded as she stood frozen, torn between fear and curiosity. The house seemed to pulse around her, its walls groaning, its shadows stretching. She took a step toward the door Margaret had vanished through, then another. Whatever was happening, whatever this hollow was, she couldn't stay in the dark any longer. She had to know. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she stood before the door Margaret had vanished through, the heavy iron key's absence leaving an ominous void on the kitchen hook. The metallic clang echoed again from somewhere deep within Henshaw House, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards and into her bones. It was followed by another low moan, not quite human, not quite animal, a sound that made her skin crawl with primal fear. She glanced back at the kitchen table, where her untouched breakfast sat cooling, the eggs congealing in the dim light. Margaret's warning rang in her ears. Stay here, don't follow me. But the pull of curiosity, mingled with a growing dread, was stronger than her fear. She stepped forward, her hand trembling as she grasped the cold brass doorknob. The door was old, its wood warped and stained, with a faint carving of a vine curling around its edges, as if the house itself were trying to claim it. She turned the knob, expecting resistance, but it gave way easily, swinging inward with a groan that echoed the house's earlier moans. Beyond the threshold was a narrow staircase descending into darkness, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and something sharper, like rusted iron. Clara hesitated, her pulse hammering. The candle she'd carried the night before was still in her room, and the kitchen offered no flashlight, only a box of matches on the counter. She grabbed them, striking one against the box. The flame flared, casting a weak glow that barely pierced the gloom of the stairwell. The house seemed to watch her, its silence heavy, expectant. She took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stair, the wood creaking under her weight. The staircase spiraled downward, its steps uneven and slick with moisture. The walls were rough stone, slick with condensation and etched with faint symbols Clara couldn't decipher, spirals, crosses, and jagged lines that seemed to pulse in the flickering matchlight. The air grew colder as she descended, her breath visible in faint puffs. The clanging had stopped, replaced by a low hum, like a distant machine or the drone of a hive. It vibrated through the walls, making her teeth ache. Asterisk. Margaret, Clara called, her voice small in the vastness of the stairwell. There was no answer, only the hum, growing louder, more insistent. She struck another match as the first one guttered out, her fingers fumbling with the box. The darkness seemed to press closer, as if it had weight, substance. She forced herself to keep moving, one hand trailing along the wall for balance. The stone icy against her palm, at the bottom of the stairs, the passage opened into a low-ceilinged corridor, its walls lined with rusted iron sconces, their candles long since melted into shapeless lumps. The hum was deafening now, a deep resonance that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Clara's match cast wild shadows, making the symbols on the walls dance like living things. She followed the corridor, her steps slow and deliberate, until she reached a heavy iron door, its surface pitted with rust and engraved with the same vine motif as the kitchen door. A massive lock hung from it, but it was open, the iron key glinting in the keyhole. Clara's heart thudded as she pushed the door open, the hinges screaming in protest. Beyond was a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow, its walls carved with intricate patterns that seemed to writhe in the matchlight. In the center of the room stood a circular stone platform, its surface etched with a spiral that glowed faintly, as if lit from within. Margaret stood before it, her back to Clara, her silver hair gleaming in the dim light. She was muttering something, her voice low and rhythmic, like a chant. "And Margaret," Clara said, her voice trembling. "Margaret." Whirled, her face pale and drawn. her eyes wide with something between fear and fury. "I told you to stay upstairs," she snapped, her voice cutting through the hum like a blade. "You don't understand what you're meddling with." Clara took a step forward, the match burning low in her hand. "Then tell me, what is this place? What's making that sound?" Margaret's lips pressed into a thin line, her hands clenching at her sides. For a moment, Clara thought she wouldn't answer, but then Margaret's shoulders sagged, and she gestured to the platform. "This is the seal," she said, her voice heavy. "The heart of the hollow. It's been here for centuries, holding back what lies beneath." Clara's eyes followed the spiral on the platform, its faint glow pulsing in time with the hum. "And what's beneath?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret's gaze darkened. "Something that doesn't belong in our world. A presence, older than time, hungry for a way out. The Henshaws have kept it locked away, but it's growing stronger. It senses you, Clara. It knows you're here." Clara's stomach twisted, the memory of the whispers from the night before flooding back. "Why me?" she asked. "I haven't been here since I was a kid. I don't even know this place." Margaret stepped closer, her eyes searching Clara's face. "Because you're a Henshaw. The blood in your veins ties you to this house, to the hollow. When your mother left, she thought she could escape it, but the bond is unbreakable. You're the last of us, Clara. The house chose you." The hum surged, a wave of sound that made Clara's head throb. The spiral on the platform glowed brighter, its light casting eerie shadows across Margaret's face. Clara struck another match, her hands shaking. "Chose me for what?" she demanded. "To guard some ancient monster. I didn't ask for this." "No one asks for it," Margaret said sharply, "but it's your duty. If the seal breaks, if the hollow opens, it won't just be this house that suffers. It'll be the world." Clara's laugh was brittle, edged with panic. "You expect me to believe that? This is insane. I came here for an inheritance, not to play gatekeeper to some ... cosmic horror." Margaret's face softened, but her eyes remained hard. "I know it's a lot to take in, but you've felt it, haven't you? The house, the way it watches you, the whispers." Clara's throat tightened. She couldn't deny it, the scratching, the heartbeat, the voices calling her name, but believing it meant accepting something impossible, something that turned her world upside down. She shook her head, backing toward the door. "I need air. I need to think." Margaret grabbed her arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "You can't run from this, Clara. The hollow won't let you." Clara yanked her arm free, her match flickering out. The darkness swallowed the chamber, the spiral's glow the only light. The hum grew louder, a chorus of voices now, whispering in languages Clara didn't understand. She stumbled back, striking another match, and saw something that made her blood run cold. Shadow, humanoid, but wrong, its limbs too long, its head featureless, standing at the edge of the platform. It was there for only a moment, then gone, as if it had never been. "Did you see that?" Clara gasped, her voice high with fear. Margaret's face was grim. "It's testing the seal. It knows you're weak." "I'm not weak," Clara snapped, though her trembling hands betrayed her. She turned and fled, the matchlight bouncing as she ran back through the corridor, up the stairs, and into the kitchen. She slammed the door behind her, her chest heaving, the hum still ringing in her ears. The kitchen was silent, the morning light filtering through the curtains in weak, gray shafts. Clara sank into a chair, her mind racing. She wanted to grab her suitcase and drive back to Boston, to leave this cursed house and its secrets behind. But Margaret's words echoed in her mind. "The hollow won't let you." And deep down, she knew it was true. The house had a hold on her, a pull she couldn't explain. She was still sitting there, staring at the cold eggs on her plate, when the back door creaked open. Clara jumped, her heart leaping into her throat. but it was only a man stranger, tall and wiry, with weathered skin and a shock of graying hair. He wore a flannel jacket and carried a toolbox, his boots leaving muddy prints on the linoleum. "Sorry to startle you," he said, his voice gruff but warm. "I'm Amos, the groundskeeper. Margaret asked me to check the furnace. It's been acting up." Clara nodded, her pulse still racing. "I'm Clara, Margaret's niece." Amos's eyes narrowed slightly, as if sizing her up. "Heard you might be coming. Henshaw House hasn't had a new face in years." He set the toolbox down with a clunk. "You settling in all right?" Clara forced a smile, though it felt brittle. "It's a lot." Amos chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "This plaza'll do that to you. Old houses have a way of getting under your skin." Clara hesitated, then asked, "Have you ever heard anything strange here? Like whispers, or a hum?" Amos's face stiffened, his hands pausing on the toolbox. "You've heard it already, haven't you?" he said quietly. "Most folks don't notice till they've been here a while, but you're a Henshaw. It's different for you." Clara's stomach churned. "What do you know about it?" Amos glanced at the cellar door, his expression guarded, enough to stay out of the cellar. "Margaret's the one to ask. She knows more than she lets on." Before Clara could press him further, Margaret reappeared, her face composed but pale. She glanced at Amos, then at Clara, her eyes sharp. "Amos, the furnace can wait. Clara, come with me. There's something you need to see." Clara's heart sank, but she followed Margaret, leaving Amos behind. They moved through the house, past the library and the parlor, to a small study tucked at the end of a corridor. The room was cluttered with papers, maps, and old photographs, the air thick with the scent of ink and dust. Margaret pulled a key from her pocket and unlocked a wooden chest, revealing a stack of journals, their pages yellowed and brittle. "These belonged to Elias," Margaret said, handing one to Clara. "Read them. They'll tell you what I can't." Clara opened the journal, its pages filled with tight, frantic handwriting. The first entry was dated 1847. "The hollow stirs. It speaks in my dreams, promising power, knowledge, eternity. But it lies. It always lies." Clara's hands trembled as she read the hum from the cellar, echoing in her mind. The house seemed to lean closer, its shadows lengthening, as if eager to hear what she would find. Clara sat at the cluttered desk in the study, the leather-bound journal open before her, its pages brittle under her trembling fingers. The air in the room was stifling, thick with the scent of old paper and wax. The single candle Margaret had lit casting flickering shadows across the walls. The house was silent, but it was a deceptive silence, like the pause before a storm. Clara could still feel the hum from the cellar, a faint vibration that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat, as if the hollow were reaching out, testing her resolve. Elias Henshaw's handwriting was meticulous but frantic, the ink smudged in places as if written in haste. The entry from 1847 continued, its words sinking into Clara's mind like stones into a still pond. "The hollow is not a place, but a presence. It lives beneath the earth, in the dark where no light can reach. I built this house to contain it, to bind it with stone and blood, but it is cunning. It whispers to me at night, offering secrets, power, promises of immortality. I see it in my dreams. Shadow with no face, its limbs twisted, its voice a chorus of the damned. I fear I have made a terrible mistake." Clara's breath hitched. She glanced up at Margaret, who stood by the window, her silhouette stark against the heavy velvet curtains. The older woman's face was unreadable, her hands clasped tightly, as if holding herself together. "What was he talking about?" Clara asked, her voice hoarse. "What did he build this house to contain?" Margaret turned, her gray eyes glinting in the candlelight. Elias was the first to understand the hollow's true nature. He wasn't just guarding it, he was trying to control it. He thought he could harness its power, use it for the family's gain. But he learned too late what it really was. And what is it? Clara pressed, her frustration mounting. You keep dodging the question. Is it a demon? A ghost? Some kind of ... monster? Margaret's lips tightened. It's not so simple. The Hollow is old, older than this land, older than us. It's a crack in the world, a place where something else can slip through. Elias called it a presence, but it's more than that. It's alive, and it's hungry. Clara's skin prickled, the memory of the shadow in the cellar flashing through her mind, its two long limbs, its featureless head. She flipped to the next page of the journal, her hands shaking. The entry was dated a month later. The townsfolk suspect. They hear the noises, feel the tremors. They come to the house, demanding answers, but I cannot tell them the truth. I have sealed the chamber with a sigil, carved with my own blood. It holds, for now, but the Hollow is restless. It speaks to Abigail, my daughter. She wanders at night, her eyes empty, whispering words I cannot understand. I fear for her soul. Clara's heart sank. Abigail, ... my great-great-grandmother? She asked, looking up at Margaret. Margaret nodded, her expression grim. She was only 12, Ketika. It took her. Elias tried to save her, but the Hollow had marked her. It marks all of us, in time. Clara closed the journal, her mind reeling. The weight of the house seemed to press down on her, the shadows in the room growing longer, sharper. This is too much, she said, her voice trembling. I didn't sign up for this. I'm not some chosen one. I'm just ... me. Margaret crossed the room, her steps slow and deliberate. She placed a hand on Clara's shoulder, her touch cold but firm. None of us choose this, Clara, but the Hollow doesn't care. It's awake now, and it's watching you. You can't run from it. Clara pulled away, her chair scraping against the floor. I need to get out of here. I need to think. She stood, clutching the journal, and headed for the door, ignoring Margaret's sharp intake of breath. Clara, wait, Margaret began, but Clara was already moving, her boots echoing through the corridor. The house seemed to shift around her, the walls tilting slightly, the portrait's eyes following her as she passed. She needed air, needed to escape the suffocating weight of Henshaw House. If only for a moment. She burst through the front door, the cold October air hitting her like a slap. The sky was a bruised gray, the trees swaying in a wind that carried the faint scent of decay. Clara stumbled down the stone path, her breath coming in sharp gasps, the journal still clutched in her hands. She didn't stop until she reached the rusted gate, where she leaned against the iron bars, her chest heaving. The town of Eldermore lay beyond, its rooftops barely visible through the trees. Clara hadn't planned to go there, but the thought of being anywhere but the house was a relief. She glanced back at Henshaw's house, its windows glinting like eyes, and made her decision. She'd walk to town, clear her head, maybe find someone who could tell her more, someone who wasn't Margaret, whose every word seemed to pull her deeper into a nightmare. The road to Eldermore was quiet, the gravel crunching under her boots. The forest loomed on either side, its branches whispering secrets in the wind. Clara's mind raced, replaying Eliase's words, the shadow in the cellar, the hum that still lingered in her ears. She tried to focus on the rhythm of her steps, the cold air in her lungs, but the journal felt heavy in her hands, as if it were pulling her back to the house. The town appeared as she rounded a bend, its sagging buildings looking even more desolate in the daylight. The diner, Maze, was the only place showing signs of life, its neon sign flickering weakly. Clara pushed open the door, a bell jingling above her head. The interior was warm but worn, with cracked vinyl booths and a jukebox. In the corner that hummed faintly, though no music played, a handful of locals sat scattered at the counter, their heads turning as Clara entered. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a name tag reading Doris, looked up from wiping the counter. "You're new," she said, her voice flat but curious. "Passing through." Clara hesitated, then slid into a booth. "Sort of. I'm staying at Henshaw House." A hush fell over the diner. The locals exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and unease. Doris's hand froze on the counter, her rag still. "Henshaw House, huh?" she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That place is ... something else." Clara's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" Doris set the rag down and poured Clara a cup of coffee, sliding it across the table. "Folks around here don't talk much about that house. Bad history. People say it's cursed." Clara wrapped her hands around the mug, the warmth grounding her. "Cursed? How?" An older man at the counter, his face weathered and his hands calloused, spoke up. "Name's Tom," he said, his voice gruff. "Lived here my whole life. The Henshaws, they've always been strange. Kept to themselves, mostly, but their stories. People disappearing, strange noises coming from that house at night. My granddad said it was built on bad ground." "Bad ground," Clara echoed, her pulse quickening. Tom nodded, his eyes narrowing. "Old stories. Before the town was here, the natives wouldn't go near that land. Said it was hollow, like the earth was empty underneath. The Henshaws built their house there anyway, and things started happening. Tremors, whispers, folks going mad." Clara's fingers tightened on the mug, Ilias's journal burning in her mind. "Have you ever seen anything unusual out there?" Tom leaned forward, his voice low. "Not seen, but heard. A hum deep in the ground. Woke me up one night last spring, like the earth was breathing. Went away after a bit, but I ain't been near that house since." Doris chimed in, her tone cautious. "Margaret Henshaw comes into town now and then, buys supplies, doesn't talk much, but she's got that look like she's carrying something heavy." "You, her kin?" Clara nodded, her throat dry, her niece. The diner fell silent again, the air thick with unspoken questions. A woman in a corner booth, her hair streaked with gray, spoke up, her voice soft but piercing. "You be careful up there, girl. That house don't let go easy." Clara forced a smile, her unease growing. "Thanks for the advice. I'm just figuring things out." She sipped her coffee, the bitter taste grounding her, and opened the journal again, flipping to a later entry. The handwriting was shakier now, the ink smeared with what looked like tears. "Abigail is gone. The Hollow took her. I found her in the cellar, standing on the seal, her eyes black as pitch. She spoke in a voice that was not hers, words I could not understand. I tried to pull her away, but the sigil burned my hands. The Hollow is stronger now. It knows my weakness. I fear it will take us all." Clara's heart pounded. She closed the journal, her hands trembling, and looked up to find Doris watching her. "You all right, huh?" the waitress asked, her brow furrowed. "Yeah," Clara lied, her voice barely steady. "Just ... tired." She paid for the coffee and left, the bell jingling behind her. The town felt smaller now, its buildings huddling together as if bracing against some unseen threat. Clara walked back toward the house, the journal heavy in her hands, the locals' words echoing in her mind. The forest seemed to close in around her, the trees whispering in a language she couldn't understand. When she reached Henshaw House, the gate creaked as she pushed it open, the sound like a warning. The house loomed before her, its windows dark, its stone walls seeming to pulse with a life of their own. Clara hesitated, then stepped inside, the air cold and heavy. Margaret was waiting in the foyer, her face pale but composed. Asterisk, "You went to town," Margaret said, her tone accusing. "What did they tell you?" Clara clutched the journal, her resolve hardening. "Enough to know you're not telling me. Everything I read about Abigail. What happened to her? What's really down in that cellar? Margaret's eyes darkened, but she didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked toward the staircase, her voice cold. Come with me. There's something you need to see. Clara followed, her heart racing, as Margaret led her to a locked door on the second floor. The older woman produced another key, this one smaller, and opened the door to reveal a narrow staircase leading to the attic. The air grew colder as they climbed, the smell of dust and decay overwhelming. At the top was a small room, its walls lined with shelves of books and artifacts, crystals, bones, and strange metal objects etched with symbols. In the center of the room was a wooden pedestal, and on it sat a single object, a small, black stone, its surface smooth and unnaturally glossy. It seemed to absorb the light, drawing Clara's gaze like a magnet. The hum was louder here, a deep, resonant pulse that made her head ache. What is that? Clara whispered, her voice trembling. Margaret's face was grim, a piece of the hollow. Elias brought it up from the cellar, thinking he could study it, control it. He was wrong. The stone pulsed, and for a moment, Clara thought she saw it move, a faint ripple, like a heartbeat. The room seemed to tilt, the shadows stretching, and she heard it again, her name, whispered in a voice that wasn't human. Clara, ... She stumbled back, her breath catching. It knows my name, she gasped. Margaret's hand closed around her wrist, her grip like iron. It knows all of us, she said, and it's waiting. Clara's breath was shallow, her eyes locked on the black stone atop the pedestal in the attic. It gleamed in the dim candlelight, its surface unnaturally smooth, like a pool of liquid obsidian. The hum that had haunted her since her arrival at Henshaw House was louder here, a deep, resonant pulse that seemed to vibrate through her bones, syncing with her heartbeat. The air in the attic was thick, heavy with the scent of dust, and something acrid, like burnt metal. The shadows cast by the candles seemed to writhe, stretching toward the stone as if drawn to it. Margaret stood beside her, her face pale but resolute, her grip on Clara's wrist, loosening but not releasing. You feel it, don't you? She said, her voice low and urgent. The hollow's pull. It's stronger up here, closer to the stone. Clara's mouth was dry, her throat tight. The whisper she'd heard her name, spoken in a voice that wasn't human, still echoed in her mind. What is it doing? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Why does it know my name? Margaret's eyes flickered with something, like fear, but she masked it quickly. The stone is a fragment of the hollow, a piece of its heart. Elias thought he could study it, use it to understand what lies beneath. But it's more than an object. It's alive, in its own way. It sees you, Clara, because you're a Henshaw. It's always known us. Clara yanked her wrist free, stepping back from the pedestal. The stone pulsed, a faint ripple crossing its surface, and the hum surged, making her head throb. This is insane, she said, her voice trembling. You're telling me this thing is talking to me, that it's alive. Margaret's expression hardened. You've heard it. You've seen the shadows. You can't deny what's happening. Clara's mind raced, replaying the events of the past, the heartbeat in the walls, the shadow in the cellar, the whispers in the night. She wanted to run, to flee back to Boston and forget this house, this stone, this nightmare. But the hum was inside her now, a constant presence, like a second pulse. She pressed her hands to her temples, trying to block it out, but it only grew, louder, the whispers weaving through it like threads in a tapestry. Clara ... Come closer ... She gasped, stumbling against a shelf, knocking a stack of papers to the floor. The candle flickered, nearly going out, and the shadows lunged, their edges jagged and sharp. Make it stop, she cried, her voice breaking. Margaret moved swiftly, grabbing a cloth from the shelf and draping it over the stone. The hum dulled instantly, the whispers fading to a faint murmur. Clara's chest heaved, her breath ragged, as the room seemed to settle, the shadows retreating. Margaret's face was grim, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the cloth. "It's contained, for now," she said, "but it's getting stronger. The seal in the cellar is weakening, and the stone is waking." Clara sank to the floor, her back against the shelf, the journal still clutched in her hands. "Why didn't you tell me about this sooner?" she demanded. "You dragged me here, knowing what this place is, knowing what it could do." Margaret knelt beside her, her voice soft but unyielding. "I didn't want to scare you away. You're the last Henshaw, Clara. If you don't take up the burden, the hollow will break free. It's already started." Clara's laugh was bitter, edged with panic. "Started? What does that even mean?" Margaret's eyes darkened. The tremors in town, the whispers people hear at night. The hollow is stirring, reaching out. If we don't strengthen the seal, it'll find a way through. And when it does, it won't stop with Eldamore. Clara's stomach churned. She thought of the diner, the locals' wary glances, Tom's story of the hum waking him in the night. "What do I have to do?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "How do I stop it?" Margaret stood, her silhouette stark against the candlelight. "You need to understand the hollow, what it wants. Iliese's journals will tell you more, but you must be careful. The stone will try to draw you in, to make you part of it. Don't touch it, Clara. Not yet." Clara nodded, her mind reeling. She opened the journal again, flipping to a later entry, dated 1848. "The stone speaks to me now, even in waking hours. It shows me visions, cities of shadow, skies of fire, a world where the hollow reigns. I see Abigail, her face pale, her eyes black. She begs me to join her, to open the seal. I cannot sleep, cannot think. The sigil in the cellar holds, but my blood is not enough. The hollow demands more." Clara's hands trembled as she read, the words blurring through tears she hadn't realized were falling. "He went mad, didn't he?" she whispered. "Elias, this thing drove him insane." Margaret's silence was answer enough. She turned away, busying herself with the papers Clara had knocked over, her movements brisk but unsteady. "Elias was strong," she said finally, "but the hollow is stronger. It finds your weaknesses, your fears, and uses them." Clara closed the journal, her resolve hardening. "I'm not him. I'm not going to let this thing control me." Margaret's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "I hope you're right, but the hollow has a way of breaking even the strongest wills." The attic grew colder, the air heavy with unspoken truths. Clara stood, her legs shaky, and followed Margaret back downstairs, the journal tucked under her arm. The house seemed to watch them, its walls creaking softly, its shadows lingering at the edges of her vision. They returned to the kitchen, where Amos was waiting, his toolbox open and a wrench in his hand. "Furnace is fine," he said, his eyes flicking between Clara and Margaret. "But I heard something down there, like footsteps, heavy ones. You been in the cellar again, Margaret?" Margaret's face tightened. "It's under control, Amos," he snorted, setting the wrench down with a clunk. "Under control," she says. "That hum's been getting louder, and you know it. Town's starting to talk too. They're scared." Clara's pulse quickened. Scared of what? Amos glanced at her, his expression guarded. "Same thing we're all scared of. Whatever's under this house. My granddad used to say it was a devil, but I don't know about that. All I know is it ain't right." Asterisk, the door closed behind him, leaving Clara and Margaret in silence. Clara's mind was a storm of questions, but one stood out. "Why didn't you tell him about the stone?" she asked. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Amos is a good man, but he's not a Henshaw. This is our burden, not his." Clara wanted to argue, but the weight of the journal in her hand stopped her. She needed answers, not more secrets. "I'm going to town again," she said, her voice firm. I need to know what people are saying, what they've seen. Margaret's face darkened, but she didn't protest. Be careful what you ask for, Clara. The truth isn't always kind. Clara walked back to Eldermoor, the journal tucked into her coat, the cold air biting at her cheeks. The forest seemed darker now, the trees leaning closer, their branches scraping the sky like claws. The hum followed her, faint but persistent, a reminder of the house's reach. By the time she reached the diner, the sky had turned a sickly yellow. Heavy with the promise of rain, Doris was behind the counter again, her face softening when she saw Clara. "Back so soon," she said, pouring a fresh cup of coffee. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Clara managed a weak smile, sliding into the same booth as before. Not a ghost, just ... a lot to process. Doris nodded, her eyes knowing. "That house'll do that to you. You want to talk about it?" Clara hesitated, then pulled the journal from her coat. "Have you ever heard of something called the Hollow or a Black Stone?" The diner went quiet, the few patrons turning to stare. Doris's face paled, her hands tightening on the coffee pot. "Where'd you hear about that?" she asked, her voice low. Clara tapped the journal. "My great-grandfather wrote about it. He said the house was built to contain something old and dangerous." Tom, the older man from the counter, slid into the booth across from her, his eyes sharp. "You're stirring up old ghosts, girl. The Hollows, a story folks around here don't like to tell. My granddad said it was a place the devil crawled out of. Said the Henshaws made a deal with it long ago." Clara's stomach twisted. "A deal?" Tom leaned forward, his voice a whisper. "Power, wealth, whatever they wanted. But it came at a price. People disappeared, kids, mostly. They'd go near that house and never come back. My granddad swore he saw one of them, a girl, standing in the woods at night, her eyes black as coal." Clara's mind flashed to Elias's journal, to Abigail's empty eyes. "Did he say what happened to her?" Tom shook his head. "She was gone by morning, but the hum started after that, and it's never stopped. Gets worse every year." Doris set the coffee pot down, her hands shaking. "You ought to leave that house, Clara. Nothing good comes from it." Clara's throat tightened. "I don't think I can." The conversation was cut short by a low rumbling tremor that shook the diner, rattling the mugs on the counter. The patrons gasped, chairs scraping as they stood. Clara's heart pounded as she gripped the table, the hum surging in her ears. The tremor stopped as quickly as it began, but the air felt heavier, charged with something unnatural. "That's the third one this week," Tom muttered, his face pale. "It's getting closer." Clara stood, her legs unsteady. "I need to get back." Doris grabbed her arm, her eyes wide. "Don't go back there, Clara. Whatever's in that house, it's waking up." But Clara was already moving. The journal clutched to her chest. The walk back to Henshaw House was a blur, the forest closing in around her, the hum growing louder with every step. When she reached the house, the gate was open, swinging gently in the wind. The windows glowed faintly, as if lit from within by something other than candlelight. Inside, Margaret was waiting, her face grim. "You felt it," she said, her voice flat, the hollow stirring. Clara's hands trembled as she held up the journal. "What did Elias do? What's the deal the townsfolk talk about?" Margaret's eyes flickered with something like guilt. "Elias made a mistake," she said. "He thought he could bargain with the Hollow, use its power, but it used him instead, and now it's using you." Clara's blood ran cold. "Using me? How?" "Before," Margaret could answer. The hum surged, a deafening wave that shook the house. The floorboards groaned, and from the cellar came a sound, a scream, not human, but filled with hunger. Clara's knees buckled, and she grabbed the banister. Her eyes locked on Margaret's. "It's calling you," Margaret whispered. "The Hollow wants you to open the seal." The scream from the cellar lingered in Clara's ears, a raw guttural sound that seemed to claw its way out of the earth itself. The house trembled, the chandelier in the foyer swaying, its crystals clinking, like teeth chattering in the cold. Clara gripped the banister, her knuckles white, her eyes locked on Margaret's pale face. The hum was everywhere now, a relentless pulse that vibrated through the floorboards, the walls, her very bones. It wasn't just sound, it was a presence, wrapping around her like a shroud, whispering her name in a chorus of voices that weren't human. "Clara," Margaret said, her voice sharp, cutting through the haze of panic. "You can't listen to it. The hollow is trying to draw you in." Clara's breath came in short, ragged gasps. "Draw me in how? What does it want?" Her voice cracked, the weight of the past 2 days pressing down on her. The journal, the stone, the shadow in the cellar, the tremors in town. It was too much, too fast, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that the house was pulling her, deeper, refusing to let her go. Margaret stepped closer, her gray eyes fierce, but trembling. "It wants you to open the seal. The sigil in the cellar, it's the only thing keeping the hollow contained. Elias's blood bound it, but the bond is weakening. It senses you, Clara. It knows you're the last Henshaw." Clara's stomach churned. "And if I don't, if I just leave?" Margaret's face darkened, her lips pressing into a thin line. "You can't leave. Not now. The hollow has marked you. If you try to run, it'll follow you. It always does." The hum surged, a wave of sound that made Clara's head throb. The scream came again, louder, closer, echoing from the cellar like a pleora demand. Clara's knees buckled, and she sank to the floor, the journal slipping from her hands. The pages fell open, revealing another of Ilias's entries, the ink smeared and frantic. "The hollow is awake. It speaks through Abigail, through the stone, through the earth itself. I tried to destroy the stone, but it burned my hands, left marks that won't heal. The sigil holds, but it demands more blood. I cannot give it what it wants. I fear I am." Losing myself, Clara stared at the words, her heart pounding. "Blood," she whispered. "What does that mean?" Margaret knelt beside her, her voice low and urgent. "The seal requires a sacrifice. Elias used his own blood to bind it, but it wasn't enough. The hollow is greedy. It wants more than we can give." Clara's mind raced, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. "Abigail," she said, her voice trembling. "It took her, didn't it? That's what happened to her." Margaret's silence was heavy, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "She was my grandmother," she said finally. "Elias tried to save her, but the hollow was too strong. It consumed her." Clara's throat tightened, the weight of her family's history pressing down on her. She stood, her legs unsteady, and grabbed the journal. "I need to see the seal again. I need to understand." Margaret's hand shot out, grabbing her arm. "Not now, Clara. It's too dangerous. The hollow is awake, and you're not ready." Clara yanked her arm free, her frustration boiling over. Ready for what? To be consumed like Abigail. To go mad like Elias. "I'm done with secrets, Margaret. If I'm supposed to stop this thing, I need to know what I'm dealing with." Margaret's face paled, but she didn't argue. Instead, she nodded, her expression grim. "Very well. But we go together, and you do exactly as I say." They moved through the house, the air growing colder with each step. The corridors seemed to twist, the portraits' eyes following them, their painted faces twisted into expressions of silent warning. The kitchen door to the cellar was ajar, the iron key still in the lock, glinting faintly in the dim light. Clara's heart pounded as Margaret pushed the door open, revealing the narrow staircase descending into darkness. The hum was deafening now, a deep, resonant pulse that seemed to shake the very walls. Clara struck a match, the flame trembling in her hand. and followed Margaret down the stairs. The stone walls slick with condensation. The symbols carved into the walls seemed to glow faintly, their spirals and crosses pulsing in time with the hum. Clara's skin prickled, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and something metallic, like blood. The cellar chamber was, as she remembered, it vast, its ceiling lost in shadow, the walls carved with writhing patterns. The circular stone platform stood in the center, its spiral sigil glowing brighter now, a sickly green light that cast eerie shadows across Margaret's face. The hum was a physical force here, pressing against Clara's chest, making it hard to breathe. She clutched the journal, her only anchor in the suffocating darkness. Margaret stopped before the platform, her hands trembling as she traced the sigil's edge with her fingers. "This is the seal," she said, her voice barely audible over. The hum, Elias carved it with his own blood, binding the hollow to this place. But the bond is frail. It needs to be renewed. Clara's eyes were drawn to the sigil, its glow hypnotic, pulling at her like a tide. The whispers returned, a chorus of voices calling her name, promising secrets, power, peace. "Clara, open it." She shook her head, trying to clear the fog, but the voices were relentless, weaving through her thoughts like smoke. "What happens if it breaks?" she asked, her voice shaking. Margaret's face was grim. "The hollow will rise. It'll spread like a plague, consuming everything in its path. Eldermore, the world it won't stop until there's nothing left." Clara's knees trembled, but she forced herself to step closer to the platform. The sigil pulsed, its light flaring as she approached, and the hum grew louder, a roar that drowned out everything else. She saw it, then a shadow, the same one from before, its limbs too long, its head featureless, standing at the edge of the platform. It didn't move, didn't speak, but its presence was a weight, a promise of something vast and terrible. "Clara, step back," Margaret shouted, her voice cutting through the hum. But Clara couldn't move. The sigil's glow held her, its light seeping into her eyes, her mind baked. The voices grew clearer, a chorus of her name, interwoven with words she didn't understand. Guttural, hungry. She reached out, her hand trembling, drawn to the sigil's center, where the light was brightest. Margaret grabbed her, yanking her back just as her fingers brushed the stone. The contact was electric, a jolt that burned through her, and the scream came again, louder, closer, filling the chamber with a sound that was both pain and hunger. The platform shook, cracks spiderwebbing across the sigil, the glow flaring too. A blinding white. "Clara." Margaret's voice was desperate, her hands gripping Clara's shoulders. "You can't let it in. Fight it." Clara's vision swam, the hum a storm in her head. She stumbled back, collapsing against the wall, the journal falling to the floor. The shadow was gone, but the sigil's glow pulsed erratically, the cracks spreading like veins. The air was thick with the scent of ozone, as if a storm were brewing beneath the earth. Margaret dragged her to her feet, her face pale but fierce. "We need to leave, now. The seal is holding, but not for long." They stumbled up the stairs, the hum chasing them, the whispers fading, but not gone. In the kitchen, Clara sank into a chair, her hands shaking, her mind a jumble of fear and confusion. Margaret locked the cellar door, her movements quick and precise, but her face betrayed her fear. "It's never been this strong," Margaret said, her voice low. "It's because of you, Clara. Your presence is waking it." Clara's laugh was brittle. "So it's my fault. I didn't ask to be here." Margaret's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. "No, but you're here now, and the hollow knows it." Before Clara could respond, a knock at the front door echoed through the house, sharp and insistent. Margaret froze, her eyes narrowing. "Stay here," she said, moving toward the foyer. Clara followed, ignoring the order, her curiosity outweighing her fear. In the foyer, Margaret opened the door to reveal a woman in her 40s, her hair dark and streaked with gray, her face lined with worry. She wore a heavy coat and carried a leather satchel, her eyes darting nervously as she stepped inside. "Margaret," the woman said, her voice tight. "We need to talk." Margaret's face hardened. "Lydia, this isn't a good time." Lydia's eyes flicked to Clara, her expression unreadable. "You're Clara Henshaw, aren't you?" "I'm Lydia Carter. I teach history at the school in town. I've been researching your family for years." Clara's pulse quickened. "Researching why?" Lydia glanced at Margaret, then back at Clara. "Because the Henshaws are tied to Eldamore's history. It's real history. The Hollow, the disappearances, the tremors. I know what's under this house, and I know it's waking up." Margaret's voice was sharp. "Lydia, you're meddling in things you don't understand." Lydia's eyes flashed. "I understand enough. The tremors are getting worse. Margaret, people are scared. And now you've brought her here." She gestured to Clara. "You're making it worse." Clara's head spun. "What do you know about the Hollow?" Lydia set her satchel on the floor, pulling out a stack of papers, maps, photographs, handwritten notes. "It's not just a story," she said. "I've found records, old journals, letters from the 1700s. The land this house is built on was a sacred site, avoided by the native tribes. They called it a thin place, where the veil between worlds is weak. The Henshaws built here, knowing what it was, and they paid the price." Clara's mind flashed to Ilias's journal, to the black stone, the sigil, and the stone in the attic. She asked. Lydia's face paled. "You've seen it?" Margaret stepped between them, her voice cold. "That's enough, Lydia. You're scaring her." "Good," Lydia snapped. "She should be scared. The Hollow is waking, and if we don't stop it, it'll take us all." The hum surged again, a low rumble that shook the house, the chandelier swaying wildly. Clara's heart pounded as she looked between Margaret and Lydia, the weight of their words sinking in. The Hollow wasn't just a family secret, it was a threat to everything, and she was at its center. Asterisk, the air in the foyer of Henshaw House was thick with tension. The hum from the cellar, a constant undercurrent, like a heartbeat woven into the walls. Clara stood frozen, the journal clutched to her chest, her eyes darting between Margaret and Lydia Carter, the historian whose words had just appended her understanding of the house. The chandelier above swayed slightly, its crystals catching, the dim light casting fractured shadows that seemed to pulse in time with the hum. The scream from the cellar lingered in Clara's memory, a raw, hungry sound that made her skin crawl. Lydia's papers were spread across the floor, maps and notes detailing Eldamore's history, the land's ancient secrets. Her voice was steady, but urgent, her dark eyes fixed on Clara. The Hollow isn't just a story. Clara, it's real, and it's been here longer than the Hench. The tribes call this land a thin place, where the world is weak, where things from outside can slip through. Your family built this house to guard it toward, to exploit it. Clara's throat tightened, the weight of Lydia's words pressing against her chest. Exploit it? You mean Elias, ... wanted this thing? Lydia nodded, her fingers tracing a map that showed the house's location, marked with a crude spiral. His journals, some of which I've found in the town archives, say he thought he could harness the Hollow's power. He believed it could grant knowledge, strength, maybe even immortality. But it backfired. The Hollow isn't something you control. It uses you. Margaret's face was a mask of barely contained anger. You've said enough, Lydia. You're scaring her with half-truths. Half-truths, Lydia snapped, standing to face Margaret. You've been keeping her in the dark, Margaret. She deserves to know what she's up against. The tremors, the disappearances, the hummets, all connected to that thing under the house. And now it's waking up because she's here. Clara's head spun, the hum growing louder, a relentless drone that made her teeth ache. Stop it, both of you, she shouted, her voice echoing in the cavernous foyer. I'm not some pawn in your family drama or your research project. I need answers, not arguments. Margaret's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. Then listen to me, Clara. The Hollow is dangerous, yes, but it's our responsibility. The seal must hold, and you're the only one who can strengthen it. Lydia snorted, gathering her papers. And how's that worked out for the Henshaw? So far, Elias went mad, Abigail was lost, and now you're dragging her into the same trap. You can't fight the Hollow with blood and sigils. It's bigger than that. Clara's hands trembled as she opened the journal, flipping to a new entry. Dated 1849, Ilias's handwriting was nearly illegible. The words scrawled in a desperate rush. The Hollow shows me visions now, worlds beyond this one, places of shadow and fire. It promises to spare Abigail if I open the seal, but I know it lies. The stone in the attic grows warmer, its light brighter. I hear her voice at night, calling me, but it is not her. The sigil burns my hands, but I cannot stop. The Hollow demands sacrifice, and I am running out of time. Clara's breath caught, the memory of the black stone's pulse flashing through her mind. Sacrifice, she whispered. What did he mean? Margaret's face paled, her hands clenching at her sides. Elias thought he could appease the Hollow, give it what it wanted to save Abigail. He was wrong. Lydia's eyes narrowed. Wrong. He gave it his daughter, didn't he? That's what the town believes. That's why they hate this house. Margaret whirled on her, her voice sharp. Enough. You don't know what you're talking about, Lydia. You've read scraps of history, but you haven't lived it. Clara's stomach churned, the journal heavy in her hands. Is it true? Did Elias ... give Abigail to the Hollow? Margaret's silence was deafening, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Finally, she spoke, her voice low. He didn't mean to. He thought he could save her, but the Hollow twisted his mind. It always does. The hum surged, a low rumble that shook the floor, the chandelier swaying wildly. Clara's heart pounded as she backed toward the door, the weight of the house pressing down on her. I need to get out of here, she said, her voice trembling. I need to think. Lydia grabbed her arm, her grip firm, but not unkind. Come, with me. I have more in town records, artifacts. You need to see the whole picture. Margaret stepped forward, her face fierce. She stays here, Lydia. The house needs her. Clara yanked her arm free, her frustration boiling over. Stop telling me what I need. I'll decide for myself. She turned to Lydia, her resolve hardening. Show me what you have. Lydia nodded, grabbing her satchel, and led Clara out into the cold October dusk. The sky was a bruised purple, the trees swaying in a wind that carried the faint scent of decay. The hum followed them, a faint echo in Clara's ears, as they walked the winding road to Eldamore. The forest seemed to watch, its branches whispering secrets, the shadows lengthening as the light faded. In town, Lydia's small house was a stark contrast to Henshaw House, cozy but cluttered, its walls lined with bookshelves and maps. A wooden table was covered with papers, photographs, and artifacts. A rusted dagger etched with spirals. A fragment of stone that gleamed like the one in the attic. A faded photograph of a young girl with hollow eyes. Abigail, Clara realized. With a shivered up, Lydia spread a map across the table, its edges yellowed with age. This is Eldamore, 1700s, she said, pointing to a spot marked with a spiral. The tribes avoided this area, called it a thin place. They left offering stones, bones to keep whatever was here at bay. When the Henshaws came, they ignored the warnings. Elias built the house right on top of it. Clara's eyes traced the spiral, her mind flashing to the sigil in the cellar, and the Hollow. What is it, really? Lydia's face was grim. I don't know exactly. The records call it a presence, a force from somewhere else. The tribes believed it was a god, or a demon, trapped beneath the earth. Elias thought he could control it, but it controlled him. Clara picked up the photograph of Abigail, her heart aching. And Abigail, what happened to her? Lydia hesitated, her voice softening. The records are vague. She disappeared in 1848, after Elias started experimenting with the stone. Some say she was taken by the Hollow, others that she was sacrificed. The town never forgave the Henshaws. Clara's hands trembled, the hum a constant presence in her mind. She set the photograph down, her eyes drawn to the stone fragment on the table. It pulsed faintly, just like the one in the attic, and she heard it again, her name, whispered in a voice that wasn't human. Clara, ... She stumbled back, her breath catching. It's here too, she gasped. The hum, the whispers. Lydia's eyes widened, and she grabbed the stone, wrapping it in a cloth. It's connected, she said. The fragments, the house, the hollow, they're all part of the same thing. The room shook, a low tremor that rattled the bookshelves, sending papers fluttering to the floor. Clara's heart pounded as the hum grew louder, the whispers weaving through it, calling her back to the house. She clutched the journal, her only anchor, and looked at Lydia. What do I do? She asked, her voice trembling. Lydia's face was resolute. We need to find a way to strengthen the seal, or destroy the hollow for good. But we can't do it alone. The tremor came again, stronger, and from outside came a sound, a low, guttural moan, like the one from the cellar. Clara's blood ran cold as she looked out the window, seeing nothing but darkness and the swaying trees. The hollow was waking, and it was calling her name. Clara's heart raced as the moan faded, leaving an oppressive silence in Lydia's cluttered living room. The hum lingered, a faint vibration in the air, weaving through the whispers that still echoed in her mind. The stone fragment on the table, now wrapped in cloth, seemed to pulse faintly, as if mocking her fear. Lydia stood by the window, her face pale, her eyes scanning the darkness outside. The tremor had shaken Eldermore, and Clara could feel the town's fear, a palpable weight that mirrored her own. We can't stay here, Lydia said, her voice low but urgent. The hollow's reach is growing. We need help. Someone with authority. Clara's mind flashed to the diner, the wary glances of the locals, Tom's stories of disappearances. Who? She asked. The people here are terrified. They won't help. Lydia turned, her expression grim. Sheriff Harlan. He's been around long enough to know something's wrong, even if he doesn't believe the old stories. He's our best shot. Clara nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. The journal in her hands felt heavier, its pages filled with Ilias's descent into madness. She didn't want to trust anyone else, not after Margaret's secrets and the Hollow's relentless pull, but she couldn't face this alone. Let's go, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The walk to the sheriff's office was tense, the streets of Eldermore deserted under a sky heavy with clouds. The wind carried the scent of damp earth and something sour, like spoiled fruit. The hum followed them, a constant reminder of the house's presence, its whispers faint but persistent. Clara clutched the journal, her eyes darting to the shadows between the buildings, half expecting to see the featureless figure from the cellar. The sheriff's office was a small brick building at the edge of town, its windows glowing faintly in the dusk. Inside, Sheriff Harlan was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s, his hair graying at the temples, his face lined with years of skepticism. He looked up from a desk cluttered with papers, his eyes narrowing as Lydia and Clara entered. Lydia, he said, his voice gruff. What's this about? Another of your ghost stories? Lydia set her satchel on the desk, pulling out a map and a photograph of Abigail. This isn't a story, Harlan. The tremors, the hum people are scared. It's coming from Henshaw House, and Clara here is caught in the middle. Harlan's eyes flicked to Clara, his expression unreadable. You're Margaret's niece, right? Heard you were up at that house? What's going on? Clara hesitated, the weight of the journal grounding her. I don't know everything, she said, her voice trembling, but there's something under the house of presence. They call it the Hollow. It's waking up, and it's dangerous. Harlan leaned back, his chair creaking. The Hollow, huh? Sounds like the same nonsense my dad used to ramble about. Old legends, native superstitions. You expect me to believe there's a monster under that house. It's not a monster, Lydia said, her voice sharp. It's a force, something ancient. I've got records, journals, maps, artifacts. The Henshaws built their house on. A thin place, a weak spot in the world. It's breaking through. Harlan and the tremors are just the start. Harlan's eyes narrowed, but Clara saw a flicker of doubt. Tremors could be geological, he said. This is New England, not some haunted swamp. You got proof. Clara opened the journal, showing him Ilias's scrawled entries. My great-grandfather wrote this. He built the house to contain something, but it drove him mad. People disappeared. Harlan, kids, like Abigail Henshaw, and now it's calling me. Harlan's face hardened, but he took the journal, scanning the pages. His fingers paused on an entry from 1850. The Hollow speaks through the stone now, its voice clear as day. It shows me Abigail, trapped in a place of shadow, begging for release. I tried to burn the house, but the flames wouldn't take. The sigil demands blood, more than I can give. I fear I am damned. Harlan set the journal down, his jaw tight. This reads like a madman's ravings. You're telling me you believe this? Clara's frustration boiled over. I've seen it. Harlan, a shadow in the cellar, a stone that pulses like it's alive. I've heard my name whispered in voices that aren't human. You can't dismiss this. The room shook, a sharp tremor that rattled the windows, sending papers sliding off the desk. Harlan stood, his hand on his holster, his eyes wide. The hum surged, a low roar that filled the air, and Clara's head throbbed, the whispers weaving. Through it, Clara. Open the seal. ... Jesus, Harlan muttered, his face pale. That's the third one today. Lydia's voice was urgent. It's getting worse, Harlan. We need to act before it's too late. Harlan hesitated, his skepticism warring with the evidence before him. All right, he said finally. I'll come to the house, take a look, but I'm not promising anything. Clara nodded, relief mingling with dread. The hum was louder. Now, a constant pressure in her skull, and she knew the house was waiting for her. As they left the sheriff's office, the streets of Eldamore seemed darker, the buildings huddling closer, as if bracing for what was coming. Asterisk, the road back to Henshaw House was shrouded in mist, the trees looming like sentinels in the gathering. Dark. Clara walked between Lydia and Sheriff Harlan, the journal heavy in her coat, the hum a relentless pulse in her ears. The air was cold, carrying the scent of wet leaves and something metallic, like old blood. The house appeared through the fog, its stone walls glinting faintly, its windows dark but watchful. Clara's stomach twisted as they approached the gate, the iron creaking as if in warning. Margaret was waiting in the foyer, her face pale but composed. You brought outsiders, she said, her voice sharp as she glared at Lydia and Harlan. This is a Henshaw matter. Lydia stepped forward, her satchel slung over her shoulder. It's bigger than your family, Margaret. The town's in danger. We need to work together. Harlan's hand rested on his holster, his eyes scanning the foyer. I'm here to see what's causing these tremors, Margaret. Clara says there's something in the cellar. I want to take a look. Margaret's lips tightened, but she nodded. Very well, but you won't like what you find. Before they could move, a new voice interrupted, low and gravelly, from the shadows of the corridor. You're stirring things best left alone. An elderly man stepped forward, his frame stooped, but his eyes sharp. his weathered face lined with years of secrets. He wore a faded jacket and carried a walking stick carved with spirals, its wood polished to a shine. Margaret's face softened, a rare hint of respect. "Samuel, you shouldn't be here." Clara's pulse quickened. "Who are you?" The man's eyes met hers, piercing and unyielding. "Samuel Blackwood, last of the old families. Besides you and my people knew this land before your kin built their cursed house." Lydia's eyes widened. "You're the one who spoke to my grandfather about the thin place. You know the native legends." Samuel nodded, leaning on his stick. "My grandmother was of the Wabanaki. She told me stories of this land, of the hollow beneath it. The tribes avoided this place, called it a wound in the world. They left offerings to keep the darkness at bay. Your ancestor, Ilias, ignored their warnings. He dug too deep, woke something that should have stayed sleeping." Clara's hands trembled, the journal heavy in her hands. "What is it? The Hollowot, is it really?" Samuel's face darkened, his voice low. "It's not a thing you can name. It's a hunger, a void that feeds on life, on will. The tribes sealed it with rituals, but Elias broke that seal when he built this house. He thought he could bargain with it, but it took his daughter, his sanity. It'll take you, too, if you're not careful." Harlan snorted, his skepticism returning. "More stories. You got any proof, old man?" Samuel's eyes narrowed. "Proof. Look at the tremors, the hum. Feel the air in this house sits wrong, and you know it. The hollow's waking, and it's because of her." He pointed at Clara, his finger trembling. Clara's heart pounded, the hum surging in her ears. "Why me?" she demanded. "I didn't ask for this." Samuel's voice softened, but his eyes were hard. "You're a Henshaw. The hollow's bound to your blood. It's been waiting for you to come back." Margaret stepped forward, her voice sharp. "That's enough, Samuel. She's not ready for this." Clara's frustration boiled over. "Stop saying that. I'm here, aren't I? I'm trying to understand, but you all keep hiding things." Samuel's gaze softened, and he gestured to a chair. "Sit, girl. I'll tell you what I know." Clara sat, the others gathering around, the hum a constant pressure in the room. Samuel leaned on his stick, his voice low and rhythmic, like a storyteller weaving a tale. "The Wabanaki called the hollow a shadow between worlds. They said it came from a place beyond ours, a place of endless dark. They sealed it with stones and songs. But Elias disturbed it. He found a fragment of black stone and brought it into the light. That's when the disappearances started." Clara's mind flashed to the stone in the attic, its pulsing warmth. "The stone," she said. "It's still here, in the house." Samuel's eyes widened. "You've seen it?" Lydia nodded, her face grim. "It's in the attic, and there's another fragment in my collection. They're connected to the hollow." Samuel's voice was urgent. "You need to destroy them, or bury them deep. They're anchors, tying the hollow to this world." Harlan's face hardened. "Enough talk. I want to see this cellar, see what's causing these tremors." Margaret hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me, but stay close." They descended into the cellar, the hum growing louder with each step, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and blood. The sigil glowed faintly, its cracks wider now, the light pulsing erratically. Harlan's skepticism wavered, his hand tightening on his holster as the hum filled the chamber, the whispers weaving through it. "Clara, open it, ... It's alive," Harlan muttered, his voice shaking. "What the hell is this?" Samuel's face was grim. "It's the hollow, Sheriff, and it's hungry." The sigil flared, and a shadow moved at the edge of the platform, its form twisting, its presence a weight that pressed against Clara's chest. She stumbled back, the hum a storm in her head, and knew the house was watching, waiting for her to break. The cellar chamber was a crucible of dread, the sigil's sickly green glow casting twisted shadows across the stone walls. Clara's heart pounded as she backed away from the platform, the shadow's presence lingering in her mind, its featureless form burned into her memory. The hum was a roar now, a relentless force that pressed against her skull, the whispers weaving through it like threads of ice. Clara, ... you belong to us. Margaret, Lydia, Harlan, and Samuel stood around her, their faces pale, their eyes wide. With varying degrees of fear and determination, Harlan's hand trembled on his holster, his skepticism crumbling. "This ain't natural," he said, his voice low. "What the hell are we dealing with?" Samuel's voice was steady, but his eyes were dark with worry. "The hollow. It's testing the seal, testing her." He nodded at Clara, his walking, stick-tapping the floor. "You need to stay strong, girl. It'll try to break you." Clara's hand shook as she clutched the journal, its pages a lifeline to the past. "How do I fight something like this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's in my head, calling me." Lydia stepped forward, her satchel open, revealing the stone fragment she'd brought from her house. "We need to destroy the anchors," she said. "The stone in the attic. This one there, what's keeping the hollow tied to this world?" Margaret's face hardened. "You don't know what you're suggesting, Lydia. Destroying the stones could weaken the sea lore, make it worse." Clara's head throbbed, the hum drowning out their voices. The sigil pulsed, its cracks glowing brighter, and she felt a pull, like a tide dragging her toward the platform. Her vision blurred, the chamber fading, and suddenly, she was somewhere. Elsa, place of shadow and fire, the air thick with the scent of ash. She stood on a vast, barren plain, the sky above a swirling mass of red and black, like a wound in the heavens. Figures moved in the distance, their forms twisted, their voices a chorus of whispers. "Clara, join us, ... A girl stood before her, her face pale, her eyes black as pitch. Clara's heart stopped. It was Abigail, the girl from the photograph, her great-grandmother. She was young, no older than 12, her dress tattered, her hands reaching out. "Help me," Abigail whispered, her voice layered with others, not her own. "Open the seal, Clara. Set me free." Clara's breath caught, her body frozen. "You're not real," she said, her voice shaking. "You're dead." Abigail's face twisted, her eyes gleaming with something ancient, hungry. "Dead? No, Clara, I'm here, in the hollow. We're all here. Open the seal, and you'll see." The vision shifted, the plane dissolving into a void, a vast darkness that pulsed like a heart. Clara felt it pulling her, drawing her deeper, promising secrets, power, peace. Her hand reached out, unbidden, and she heard her own voice, distant and small. "No, ... Clara." Margaret's voice cut through the vision, sharp and desperate. Clara gasped, the chamber snapping back into focus, her body trembling against the cold stone wall. Margaret's hands gripped her shoulders, her eyes wide with fear. "You can't let it in. Fight it." Clara's chest heaved, the hum a storm. In her head, "I saw her," she gasped. "Abigail. She was there, in some ... other place. She told me to open the seal." Samuel's face was grim. "It's lying to you. The hollow uses what you love, what you fear. It's not Abigail." Harlan's voice was shaky. "We need to get out of here. This place is wrong." Lydia's eyes were fierce. "Not until we know how to stop it." "Clara, what else did you see?" Clara's mind raced. The vision's images burned into her. A plain, like a desert, with a red sky. Shadows everywhere, moving, and a void, pulling me in. It felt ... alive. Samuel nodded, his voice low. "That's the hollow's world, a place between, where it traps what it takes. Abigail's there, or what's left of her." Margaret's face paled, her hands trembling. "We need to strengthen the seal, now, before it pulls her in completely." Clara's heart pounded, the journal heavy in her hands. She opened it, flipping to a later entry, dated 1851. I have failed. The hollow has Abigail, and I cannot reach her. The stone burns brighter, its voice louder. I tried to destroy the sigil, to end this, but the house protects it. The hollow demands blood, and I have none left to give. I seal this journal, hoping someone stronger will find it. Clara's voice trembled as she read aloud, the words echoing in the chamber. He gave up, she said. Elias couldn't stop it. Lydia's face was resolute. Then we'll do what he couldn't. We destroy the stones, break the hollow's hold. Harlan shook his head, his face pale. You're talking about messing with something we don't understand. One, say we get out, call in experts, geologists, maybe. Samuel's voice was sharp. There's no time for that, Sheriff. The hollow's awake, and it's focused on her. He pointed at Clara, his eyes unyielding. The sigil flared again, the cracks widening, and the hum surged, a wave that knocked Clara to her knees. The whispers returned, louder, more insistent. Clara, open it, ... set us free. She clutched her head, fighting the pull, the vision of Abigail's black eyes flashing through her mind. We need to leave, Margaret said, her voice urgent. Now. They stumbled up the stairs, the hum chasing them, the chamber's glow fading, but not gone. In the kitchen, Clara sank into a chair, her body trembling, the journal open before her. The house was alive, its walls creaking, its shadows stretching. She knew the hollow was watching, waiting for her to break. The kitchen of Henshaw House was a fragile sanctuary, its cracked linoleum floor and flickering light, a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness of the cellar. Clara sat at the table, her hands trembling around a mug of cold tea, the journal open before her. The hum was fainter here, but it never left, a constant reminder of the hollow's presence. Margaret, Lydia, Harlan, and Samuel stood around her, their faces etched with worry, the tension between them palpable. Harlan broke the silence, his voice gruff but shaken. I don't know what I just saw down there, but I'm not equipped for this. We need to call in help state police, maybe. Lydia's eyes flashed. And tell them what? That a house is haunted by a cosmic entity. They'll lock us up. Samuel leaned on his walking stick, his voice low. She's right, Sheriff. This is beyond outsiders. The Hollow's tied to this land, to the Henshaws. It's their fight. Clara's frustration boiled over. I didn't ask for this fight. I came here for an inheritance, not to battle some ancient evil. Margaret's voice was soft but firm. None of us asked for it, Clara, but you're here, and the Hollow knows it. You can't walk away. Before Clara could respond, a sharp knock at the front door echoed through the house, followed by a chorus of voices angry, fearful. Margaret's face paled as she moved to the foyer, Clara and the others following. Through the door's narrow window, Clara saw a crowd of townsfolk, their faces lit by flickering lanterns, their eyes wide with panic. Tom, the old man from the diner, stood at the front, his hands clenched into fists. Margaret opened the door, her voice calm but strained. What do you want, Tom? Tom's face was red with anger, his voice shaking. We want answers, Margaret. The tremors are getting worse, the hum's keeping us up at night. And now my boy says he saw something in the woods, a shadow, moving. It's that house, ain't it? It's waking something up. The crowd murmured, their voices a mix of fear and accusation. A woman stepped forward, her hair wild, her eyes red-rimmed. My daughter's been sleepwalking, muttering nonsense about a hollow place. She's only 10, Margaret. What's your family done? Clara's heart sank, the memory of Abigail's black eyes flashing through her mind. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. I'm Clara Henshaw. I don't know everything, but I'm trying to stop it. There's something under the house, Something old. We're working on it. Tom's eyes narrowed. Working on it. Your kin caused this, girl. The Henshaws brought this curse on us, and now you're stirring it up. Lydia stepped between them, her voice sharp. Blaming her won't fix it. Tom, we need to work together. I've got records, proof of what's happening. We can stop it. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some nodding, others shaking their heads. Harlan raised his hands, his voice authoritative. All right, folks, let's calm down. I'll look into this, but you need to go home. Panicking won't help. The woman with the wild hair stepped closer, her voice desperate. You don't get it, Sheriff. It's not just tremors. My daughter drew something last night, a spiral, like the one on that house's gate. She said it told her to come here. Clara's blood ran cold, the hum surging in her ears. She looked at Margaret, whose face was pale, her hands trembling. The hollows reaching out, Margaret whispered. It's not just you anymore. Samuel's voice was grim. It's spreading, the seal's weakening, and the hollows looking for new voices. The crowd grew restless, their voices rising, and Clara felt the weight of their fear, their anger. She clutched the journal, its pages a lifeline, and opened it to a new entry. Dated 1852, the town is turning against me. They hear the hum, feel the tremors. They blame me, and they're right. The hollow is growing, its shadows slipping through the cracks. I tried to destroy the stone, but it fights back. The sigil demands more than blood, not demands a life. I cannot give it mine, but I fear it will take another. Clara's voice trembled as she read aloud, the crowd falling silent. Elias knew the town was scared, she said. He tried to stop it, but he couldn't. I don't know if I can either, but I'm trying. Tom's face softened, but his eyes were hard. Trying ain't enough. Girl, fix it, or we will. Harlan stepped forward, his hand on his holster. That's enough, Tom. Go home, all of you. I'll handle this. The crowd dispersed reluctantly, their lanterns fading into the mist. Clara's heart pounded as she looked at her companions, the hum a constant pressure in her head. They're right, she said. It's spreading. What do we do? Lydia's face was resolute. We destroy the stones, starting with the one in the attic. It's our best chance. Margaret's voice was sharp, and risk breaking the seal completely. You're playing with fire, Lydia. Asterisk, Samuel nodded. She's right. We need to strengthen the seal first, bind it with something stronger. Clara's head throbbed, the whispers returning. Clara, come to us. ... She clutched the journal, her resolve hardening. I'll do whatever it takes, she said. But I need to know everything. No more secrets. Margaret's eyes met hers, a flicker of guilt in them. There's one more thing, she said. The ritual Elias used, it's in the attic, with the stone. But it's dangerous. Clara, it could kill you. The hum surged, the house trembling, and Clara knew there was no turning back. The hollow was waiting, and it was running out of patience. Asterisk. The kitchen of Henshaw House was a fragile refuge, its flickering light barely holding back the shadows that seemed to seep from the walls. Clara sat at the table, her hands trembling around the journal, the hum a relentless pulse in her ears. Margaret's warning about the ritual in the attic hung heavy in the air, a promise of danger that made Clara's stomach churn. Lydia, Sheriff, Harlan, and Samuel stood around her, their faces etched with varying degrees of resolve and fear. The house groaned softly, as if responding to the tension, its floorboards creaking like a whispered warning. Clara's voice was hoarse, her eyes fixed on Margaret. What's the ritual, and why would it kill me? Margaret's face was pale, her hands clasped tightly. Elias devised it to strengthen the seal, she said, her voice low. It requires blood, a Henshaw's blood, to bind the hollow. But it's not just a drop or two. It takes ... everything. Clara's heart pounded, the memory of Ilias's journal flashing through her mind. The sigil demands more than blood. Now it demands a life. You're saying it needs a sacrifice, she said, her voice trembling, like Abigail. Margaret's eyes glistened, but her voice was firm. Elias didn't sacrifice Abigail. The Hollow took her when he faltered. The ritual is dangerous, Clara, but it's the only way to strengthen the seal. Lydia's voice was sharp, her satchel open on the table. And you didn't think to mention this before? You're asking her to risk her life based on a madman's notes. Samuel leaned on his walking stick, his weathered face grim. It's not just notes, Lydia. The Wabanaki used blood rituals to seal the Hollow long before the Henshaws. It's old magic, dangerous but effective. Harlan's face was a mask of skepticism, his hand still on his holster. Magic? You expect me to believe this? I came here to check for gas leaks or fault lines, not to play witch doctor. Clara's frustration boiled over. You felt the hum, Harlan. You saw the sigil. This isn't a gas leak, it's real, and it's after me. She opened the journal, flipping to a new entry. Dated 1853, the handwriting barely legible. The ritual is my last hope. The Hollow grows stronger, its shadows slipping through the cracks. I found the old rites in a Wabanaki text, hidden in the attic. Blood to bind, will to hold. I will offer myself, but I fear it will not be enough. The Hollow demands a Henshaw, and I am the last. Clara's breath caught, her hands trembling as she read aloud. He tried the ritual, she said, and it killed him, didn't it? Margaret nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. He died in the attic, before the stone. The seal held for a time, but it's weakening again. You're the only one left, Clara. The hum surged, a low rumble that shook the table, the mug of tea rattling. Clara's head throbbed, the whispers weaving through the hum. Clara, ... give yourself to us. She clutched the journal, fighting the pull, the memory of Abigail's black eyes and the vision burning in her mind. Lydia slammed her hand on the table, her face fierce. We don't need a sacrifice. We destroy the stones, break the Hollow's hold. There has to be another way. Samuel's voice was low, his eyes dark. The stones are anchors, yes, but destroying them could unleash the Hollow completely. The ritual is safer if Clara is strong enough. Harlan's voice was gruff. Enough. I'm not standing here while you talk about blood and magic. I'm going to the attic. See this stone for myself. Margaret's face hardened, but she nodded. Very well. But don't touch it, Harlan. It's not what you think. They climbed the narrow staircase to the attic, the air growing colder with each step, the hum louder, more insistent. The attic was as Clara remembered, cluttered with shelves of books and artifacts. The black stone on its pedestal, pulsing faintly under the cloth Margaret had draped over it. The candlelight flickered, casting wild shadows that seemed to writhe. Drawn to the stone's glow, Harlan approached the pedestal, his hand hovering over the cloth. This is it, he asked, his voice laced with doubt. Looks like a rock. Don't, Clara said, her voice sharp. It's alive, Harlan. It'll pull you in. He snorted, but stepped back, his skepticism wavering. Lydia pulled the cloth aside, revealing the stone's glossy surface. Its pulse stronger now, a deep throb that matched the hum. Clara's head ached, the whispers growing louder. Clara, touch it, ... Margaret's single quotes as voice was urgent. Cover it, Lydia. Now, Lydia complied, her hands trembling, but the hum didn't fade. The room shook, a sharp tremor that knocked books from the shelves, the candle flickering wildly. Clara's vision blurred, the attic fading, and she was back in the Hollow's world, the barren plain, the red sky, Abigail standing before her, her black eyes gleaming. Clara, Abigail whispered, her voice layered with others. The ritual is the only way. Give yourself, and we'll be free. Clara's heart pounded, her body frozen. I won't, she said, her voice shaking. You're not Abigail, you're the Hollow. Abigail's face twisted, a smile that wasn't human. "We are one, Clara. You'll see." The vision snapped, Clara gasping as the attic came back into focus. She was on her knees, Margaret's hands gripping her shoulders, her voice desperate. "Clara, stay with me. Don't listen to it." Clara's chest heaved, the hum a storm. In her head, "It's getting stronger," she gasped. "It's in my head, showing me things." Samuel's face was grim. "The Hollow's testing you. You need to prepare for the ritual, or it'll take you like it took Abigail." Right? Face was pale, his hand trembling on his holster. "I'm out of my depth here. I'm calling the state police." Lydia's voice was sharp. "And tell them what? We need to act now, before the seal breaks." Clara stood, her legs unsteady, the journal clutched to her chest. "Show me the ritual," she said, her voice firm, despite her fear. "I need to know what I'm facing." Margaret hesitated, then crossed to a shelf, pulling down a small, leather-bound book, its pages brittle and stained. "This is the Wabanaki text Elias found," she said. "It details the ritual blood to bind, will to hold. But it's not just blood, Clara. It's your strength, your resolve. If you waver, the Hollow will take you." Clara opened the book, its pages filled with symbols and chants in a language she didn't understand. The hum surged, the stone pulsing beneath its cloth, and Clara knew the house was watching, waiting for her to decide. The attic's oppressive air followed Clara as they descended to the kitchen, the Wabanaki text heavy in her hands, its symbols seeming to shift in the flickering light. The hum was a constant presence, weaving through her thoughts, the whispers faint but relentless. "Clara, ... give in." Margaret, Lydia, Harlan, and Samuel gathered around the table, their faces tense, the weight of the ritual's price hanging over them like a storm cloud. The house groaned softly, its walls creaking as if straining under an unseen force. Clara opened the text, her fingers trembling as she traced the spirals and chants. "How does it work?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "What do I have to do?" Margaret's voice was low, her eyes fixed on the book. "The ritual binds the Hollow to the sigil, using a Henshaw's blood and will. You carve the sigil into your skin, speak the chants, and offer yourself to the seal. If your will is strong, the Hollow is contained. If not, ... Clara's stomach twisted, the memory of Abigail's black eyes flashing through her mind. "It takes me," she finished, her voice barely audible. Lydia's face was fierce. "There has to be another way. Destroying the stones, breaking the anchors. Elias never tried that." Samuel shook his head, his walking stick tapping the floor. "The stones are part of the Hollow. Destroying them could unleash it completely. The ritual's the only way we know works." Harlan's voice was gruff, his skepticism fraying. "This is crazy. You're talking about cutting yourself open for some ancient curse. I'm not letting that happen on my watch." Before anyone could respond, the commotion outside broke the tension. A chorus of angry voices, the crunch of gravel under boots. Clara's heart pounded as she followed Margaret to the foyer, the others close behind. Through the door's window, she saw the crowd from earlier, larger now, their lanterns casting flickering light across the lawn. Tom was at the front, his face red with fury, a pitchfork in his hand. The woman with the wild hair stood beside him, her eyes blazing, holding a drawing of a spiral. Margaret opened the door, her voice calm but strained. "What do you want, Tom?" "I told you to go home." Tom's voice was a growl. "We're done waiting, Margaret. The tremors are shaking our houses. Our kids are seeing things. My boy found this." He held up a stone fragment, its surface gleaming like the one in the attic. "It was in the woods, and it hums, just like that damned house." Clara's blood ran cold, the hum surging in her ears. "Where did he find it?" she asked, stepping forward. Tom's eyes narrowed. "Near the old well. by the edge of your property. He said it was warm, like it was alive. Lydia's face paled, her satchel clutched tightly. Another anchor, she whispered, the hollows spreading. The crowd's voices rose, a mix of fear and anger. The woman with the wild hair stepped forward, her voice shrill. My daughter's gone. Margaret. She left last night, said she had to come here. We found her shoes by that well. Clara's heart sank, the vision of Abigail's pleading face flashing through her mind. We'll find her, she said, her voice trembling. I promise. Tom's face hardened. Promises won't cut it. Girl, we're burning this house down if we have to. It's cursed. Harlan stepped forward, his hand on his holster. Nobody's burning anything. Go home, all of you. I'll handle this. The crowd didn't move, their lanterns swaying, their eyes fixed on the house. Clara felt the hum grow louder, the whispers weaving through it. Clara, ... bring them to us. She clutched the Wabanaki text, her resolve hardening. I'll do the ritual, she said, her voice steady despite her fear. But I need time. Margaret's eyes widened, but she nodded. We'll prepare tonight, but you need to be sure, Clara. The crowd murmured, some backing away, others standing firm. Tom's voice was low, threatening. You got till dawn, Henshaw. Fix this, or we will. Harlan ushered the crowd back, his voice authoritative, but shaken. As they dispersed into the mist, Clara turned to her companions, the text heavy in her hands. Show me what to do, she said. I'm not letting this thing take anyone else. They returned to the kitchen, the hum a constant pressure, the house watching their every move. Margaret opened the Wabanaki text, pointing to a page of chants and symbols. You'll need to carve the sigil here, she said, touching Clara's forearm, and speak these words. But you must be strong, Clara. The Hollow will fight you. Lydia's voice was sharp, and if it doesn't work, we need a backup plan. Destroy the stones, something. Samuel's face was grim. The stones are dangerous, but they might be our only leverage if the ritual fails. The hum surged, the house trembling, and Clara felt the Hollow's pull, stronger now, calling her to the cellar. She knew dawn was coming, and with it, a choice that could cost her everything. Asterisk, the kitchen was a war room, its table cluttered with the Wabanaki text, Elias's journal, and Lydia's maps and artifacts. The hum pulsed through the house, a relentless force that seemed to tighten around Clara's heart, the whispers weaving through her thoughts. Clara, ... you cannot stop us. Margaret stood over the text, her face pale but resolute, while Lydia and Samuel argued over the stones, their voices tense. Harlan paced, his skepticism eroded by the tremors and the cellar's unnatural glow. Clara's hands trembled as she studied. The Wabanaki text, its symbols unfamiliar but hauntingly familiar, like the spirals carved into the cellar walls. How do I do this? She asked, her voice hoarse. How do I carve the sigil without ... losing myself? Margaret's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her fear. You'll need a blade, consecrated with salt and ash. The chants must be spoken exactly, or the Hollow will twist them. Your will is the key, Clara. If you doubt, it'll take you. Lydia's face was fierce. This is madness. You're sending her to her death based on a centuries-old ritual. We should be focusing on the stones destroying them, not playing with blood magic. Samuel's voice was low, his walking stick tapping the floor. The stones are part of the Hollow. Destroying them could unleash it completely. The ritual's our best chance. Harlan stopped pacing, his face grim. I don't like any of this, but I'm not standing by while that thing takes more kids. What do you need, Clara? Clara's heart pounded, the weight of the towns, fear pressing down on her. Time, she said, and whatever you can give me to keep the crowd away. They're scared, and they'll burn this place down if we don't act. Harlan nodded, grabbing his radio. I'll call in my deputy. Set up a perimeter, but you've got till dawn, like Tom said. Margaret crossed to a cupboard, retrieving a small wooden box. Inside was a dagger, its blade etched with spirals, its handle wrapped in leather. This was Elias's, she said, handing it to Clara. He used it for the ritual. It's been cleansed, but it carries his pain. Clara took the dagger, its weight cold and heavy in her hand. The hum surged, the whispers growing louder. Clara, ... wielded. She shivered, setting the dagger on the table, her eyes fixed on the Wabanaki text. What do I say? She asked. Margaret pointed to a chant, its words written in frenetic script. These are the binding words. You speak them as you carve the sigil, offering your blood to the seal. But you must focus, Clara. The hollow will try to pull you in. Lydia's voice was sharp. And what about the girl who's missing? Tom's boy found a stone by the well, and now the kid's gone. We need to search for her. Samuel nodded, his face grim. The well's on the edge of the property, near where the tribes left offerings. If the hollow's reaching out, it might be there. Clara's heart sank, the vision of Abigail's pleading face flashing through her mind. I'll go, she said, her voice steady despite her fear. If she's out there, I'll find her. Harlan's face hardened. Not alone, I'm coming. With you. Margaret's voice was sharp. You need to prepare, Clara. The ritual can't wait. Clara's frustration boiled over. I'm not letting a kid die because I'm too busy carving sigils. I'll do the ritual, but I'm finding her first. Lydia nodded, grabbing her satchel. I'm with you. The well's a start. Samuel hesitated, then nodded. I'll come too. I know the old paths. Margaret's face was pale, but she didn't argue. Be quick, Clara. The hollow's watching. They left the house, the mist thick around them, the hum a constant pressure. The well was a crumbling stone structure at the edge of the property, its mouth dark and gaping. Clara's flashlight beam cut through the fog, revealing a scattering of stones around the well, each etched with spirals. Pulsing faintly like the one in the attic, Harlan's voice was low. This is where Tom's boy found that rock. Lydia nodded, kneeling to examine the stones. They're anchors, like the one in my collection. The hollow's spreading its influence. Clara's heart pounded as she approached the well, the hum louder here, the whispers weaving through it. Clara, ... look inside. She peered into the darkness, her flashlight revealing nothing but damp stone walls. Then she saw it a child's shoe caught on a jagged edge, its laces torn. She's here, Clara whispered, her voice trembling. Samuel's face was grim. The hollow's taken her, like it took Abigail. Clara's resolve hardened. I'm going down. Harlan grabbed her arm, his face pale. You're not climbing into that thing. We'll get a rope. Call for help. Clara yanked free, the hum a storm in her head. There's no time. I'm not losing her. She tied her flashlight to her belt and began to climb, the stones cold and slick under her hands. The well was deep, its air heavy with the scent of earth and decay. The hum grew louder, the whispers a chorus. Clara, you're ours, ... She ignored them, her heart pounding, until her feet touched the bottom, ankle deep in cold water. In the beam of her flashlight, she saw her a girl, no older than 10, curled against the wall, her eyes wide and black, like Abigail's in the vision. You came, the girl whispered, her voice layered with others, not her own. Clara's blood ran cold, but she knelt beside her, her voice soft. I'm here to help. What's your name? The girl's lips moved, but the voice was, the hollows. Open the seal, Clara. Set us free. Asterisk the well's damp, icy air pressed against Clara's skin. The hum, a deafening roar in her ears. The whispers weaving through it like a chorus of the damned. Clara, ... You belong to us. The girl crouched before her, her black eyes gleaming. In the flashlight's beam, her face pale and unnaturally still. Clara's heart pounded, the memory of Abigail's vision merging with the reality before her. The girl's voice, layered with the hollows, sent a shiver down her spine. But she forced herself to stay calm, her hand steady on the flashlight. "I'm Clara," she said, her voice soft but firm. "What's your name?" The girl's head tilted, her eyes unblinking, like twin voids. "I'm Sarah," she whispered, her voice a mix of her own and something ancient, hungry. "You shouldn't be here, Clara. It wants you." Clara's stomach twisted, but she inched closer, her boots sloshing in the cold water. "I'm here to get you out, Sarah. Your mom's waiting for you." Sarah's lips curved into a smile. That wasn't hers, her voice layered with the hollows. "Mom can't help. No one can. The seal is breaking, Clara. You'll open it for us." Clara's breath caught, the hum surging, a wave that made her head throb. She heard Lydia's voice from above, faint and desperate. "Clara, you okay down there? I found her." Clara called back, her voice echoing off the stone walls. "She's alive, but something's wrong." Asterisk. Harlan's voice followed, gruff and urgent. "Hang on, we're getting a rope." Clara's eyes stayed on Sarah, her heart aching. The girl was small, her clothes soaked, her hair plastered to her face, but her eyes, those black, empty eyes, were the hollows, watching, waiting. Clara reached out, her hand trembling, and touched Sarah's shoulder. The contact was electric, a jolt that burned through her, and the hum roared, the whispers deafening. "Clara, ... give in, ... Sarah's hands snapped up, her voice a hiss. "Don't fight it, Clara. It's easier to join us." Clara yanked her hand back, her heart pounding. "I'm not joining anything," she said, her voice shaking. "You're coming with me, Sarah." She grabbed the girl's arm, pulling her to her feet, but Sarah resisted, her body unnaturally heavy, as if anchored to the well. The hum surged, the water around them rippling, and Clara's vision blurred, the well fading into the hollow's world, the barren plain, the red sky, Abigail standing beside Sarah, their black eyes gleaming. "Clara," Abigail whispered, her voice layered with the hollows. "The ritual won't save her. Open the seal, and we'll all be free." Clara's head throbbed, the hum a storm in her mind. "You're not Abigail," she said, her voice trembling. "And you're not Sarah. Let her go." The vision snapped, the well returning Sarah's eyes still black, but her face twitching, as if fighting something inside her. Clara tightened her grip, her resolve hardening. "Sarah, listen to me. You're stronger than this. Fight it." Sarah's body trembled, a flicker of fear in her eyes, her own voice breaking through. "I'm scared, Clara. It's in my head." Clara's heart ached, but she kept her voice steady. "I know. I'm scared too, but we're getting out of here." A rope dropped from above, Harlan's voice echoing down. "Tie it around her, Clara. We'll pull you both up." Clara secured the rope around Sarah's waist, her hands shaking as the hum grew louder, the whispers a chorus. "Clara, you can't save her." She ignored them, tying the rope around herself, and called up, "Pull." The ascent was slow, the well's walls slick and cold, the hum a constant pressure. Sarah's body was limp, her eyes flickering between black and her own, a battle raging inside her. Clara held her tightly, whispering, "You're okay, Sarah. Just hold on." They reached the surface, Harlan and Samuel pulling them out, Lydia's face pale with relief. Sarah collapsed, her eyes closing, her breathing shallow but steady. The hum faded slightly, the whispers retreating, but Clara felt the hollows, presence, watching from the shadows. Lydia knelt beside Sarah, checking her pulse. "She's alive, but she needs a doctor." Harlan nodded, his face grim. "I'll get her to the clinic." "But Clara, what the hell was that down there?" Clara's voice trembled, the memory of Sarah's black eyes burning in her mind, the hollows in her. It's trying to use her, like it used Abigail. Samuel's face was grim, the well's an old offering site, the hollows reaching out, spreading its anchors. Clara's heart pounded, the Wabanaki text heavy in her coat. "We need to do the ritual," she said, "tonight, before it takes anyone else." They carried Sarah back to the house, the mist thick around them, the hum a constant reminder of the hollow's hunger. Margaret was waiting, her face pale as she saw Sarah's limp form. "The hollows marked her," she whispered, like Abigail. Clara's resolve hardened. "Then we stop it. Show me how to prepare." The house groaned, the hum surging, and Clara knew the night would bring a reckoning she wasn't ready for. The kitchen of Henshaw House was a battleground of fear and determination. The table cluttered with the tools of the ritual dagger, the Wabanaki text, a bowl of salt and ash. Clara stood over them, her hands trembling, the hum a relentless pulse in her ears, the whispers weaving through her thoughts. "Clara, ... you cannot win." Sarah lay on a cot in the corner, her breathing shallow, her eyes flickering open but clouded, as if the hollow still lingered inside her. Margaret, Lydia, and Samuel prepared the ritual, while Harlan stood by the door, his radio crackling with updates from his deputy about the town's growing unrest. Clara's heart pounded as she studied the Wabanaki text, its chants and symbols, a labyrinth of ancient power. "How long will this take?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Margaret's face was pale, her hands steady as she mixed salt and ash in the bowl. "The ritual must be done at midnight, when the veil is thinnest. You'll carve the sigil, speak the chants, and offer your blood to the seal. If your will is strong, it'll hold." Lydia's voice was sharp, her satchel open, revealing the stone fragment from her collection. "And if it's not, we need a backup plan. The stones are the key. Destroy them, and we cut the hollow's anchors." Samuel shook his head, his walking stick tapping the floor. "The stones are dangerous, Lydia. Destroying them could break the seal completely. The rituals? Our only hope." Harlan's voice was gruff, his face pale. "I've got a mob forming in town. They're talking about coming here, burning the house down. We need to move fast." Clara's stomach twisted, the memory of Sarah's black eyes merging with Abigail's in her vision. "What about Sarah?" she asked. "The hollow's in her. Will the ritual save her?" Margaret's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. "If the seal holds, it'll weaken the hollow's grip. But she's marked Clara. Like Abigail, it may not be enough." Clara's resolve hardened, the dagger cold in her hand. "Then we do it now. I'm not losing her." They moved to the attic, the air colder, heavier, the hum louder as they approached. The stone. It pulsed beneath its cloth, its glow seeping through, casting shadows that seemed to writhe. Clara's head throbbed, the whispers growing louder. "Clara, join us, ... She set the dagger and text on the pedestal, her hands trembling, and looked at Margaret. "Tell me what to do." Margaret's voice was steady, guiding her through the steps. "Sprinkle the salt and ash around the stone, forming a circle. Then carve the sigil into your forearm. Here." She touched Clara's arm, her fingers cold. "Speak the chants as you do. Focus on your will, your strength. Don't let the hollow in." Clara nodded, her heart pounding as she sprinkled the salt and ash, the grains hissing as they touched the floor. The hum surged, the stone's glow flaring, and the whispers became a chorus. "Clara, you're ours, ... She gripped the dagger, its blade glinting in the candlelight, and pressed it to her forearm, her hand shaking. Lydia's voice was urgent. "Clara, you don't have to do this. We can find another way." Clara's eyes met hers, her resolve unwavering. "There is no other way. I'm doing this." She began to carve, the blade biting into her skin, pain flaring as blood welled. She spoke the chants, her voice trembling but steady, the words foreign but heavy with power. The hum roared, the stone pulsing wildly, and the room shook, books falling from the shelves, the candle flickering. Clara's vision blurred, the attic fading, and she was back in the Hollow's world, the barren plain. The red sky, Abigail and Sarah standing before her, their black eyes gleaming. "Clara," they whispered, their voices one. "You cannot stop us. Join us." Clara's hand trembled, the dagger cutting deeper, blood dripping onto the floor. "No," she said, her voice breaking. "I won't let you win." The vision snapped, the attic returning, the hum, a storm in her head. She finished the sigil, the spiral carved into her skin, and spoke the final chant, her voice echoing in the room. The stone flared, its glow blinding, and the hum surged, a wave that knocked her to her knees. The whisper screamed, a chorus of rage and hunger, and Clara felt the Hollow's pull, stronger than ever, trying to drag her into its world. Margaret's hands gripped her shoulders, her voice desperate. "Hold on, Clara. Don't let it in." Clara's body trembled, her will straining, the blood from her arm pooling on the floor. The stone pulsed, the hum deafening, and she knew the ritual was only the beginning. The Hollow was fighting back, and dawn was still hours away. The attic of Henshaw House was a battlefield of light and shadow, the black stone's blinding glow, fading as Clara collapsed to her knees, her blood pooling on the floor. The sigil carved into her forearm burned, a spiral of raw, throbbing pain that pulsed in time with the hum reverberating through the room. The Wabanaki text lay open beside her, its chants still echoing in her mind, their ancient syllables heavy with power. The whispers of the Hollow were a storm, a chorus of rage and hunger. Clara, ... You cannot hold us. ... But the seal in the cellar, though strained, had not broken. Not yet. Margaret's hands gripped Clara's shoulders, her voice sharp with urgency. "Clara, stay with me. You did it too. Bound the seal." Clara's vision swam, the attic tilting, the shadows writhing like living things. Her arm throbbed, blood seeping through the makeshift bandage Lydia had tied around it. The hum was fainter now, but it lingered, a constant pressure in her skull. Sarah, the girl from the well, lay on the cot in the corner, her breathing steadier, but her eyes still clouded, as if the Hollow's grip hadn't fully released her. Lydia, Samuel, and Sheriff Harlan stood around the pedestal, their faces pale, the stone's pulse muted, but not gone. Clara's voice was hoarse, her body trembling. Did it work? Is the seal holding? Margaret's face was grim, her eyes fixed on the stone. "For now, your blood strengthened it, but it's not permanent. The Hollow's fighting back." Lydia's voice was sharp, her satchel open, revealing the stone fragment from her collection. "We need to destroy these anchors. The ritual's just a bandage. The stones are what's keeping the Hollow here." Samuel leaned on his walking stick, his weathered face etched with worry. "You're playing with fire, Lydia. The stones are tied to the seal. Destroying them could unleash the Hollow completely." Harlan's hand trembled on his holster, his skepticism replaced by raw fear. "I don't know what I just saw, but that thing, whatever it is, ain't normal. Clara, you okay?" Clara nodded weakly, her head throbbing. "I'm alive, but it's still in my head. The whispers, the visions. It showed me Abigail, Sarah, a place, a plain with a red sky." Samuel's eyes darkened. "The Hollow's world. It's trying to pull you in, like it did Abigail. You need to rest, girl. The ritual took a lot out of you." Clara's resolve hardened, despite her exhaustion. "I can't rest. Sarah's still marked, and the town's ready to burn this place down. We need to finish this." Before anyone could respond, a sharp crack echoed from outside, followed by shouts, angry, desperate voices. Harlan's radio crackled, his deputy's voice frantic. "Sheriff, you there?" The crowd's back. Bigger this time. They've got torches, talking about storming the house. Harlan's face paled, his hand tightening on the radio. "Damn it, Tom. I told them to stay put." He turned to Clara, his voice gruff. "We need to get Sarah to the clinic, and I need to calm these people down. You stay here. Prepare for whatever's next." Clara's heart pounded, the hum surging faintly, the whispers weaving through it. "Clara, they cannot stop us." She stood, her legs unsteady, and grabbed the Wabanaki text. "I'm coming with you," she said. "The town needs to know what we're fighting." Margaret's voice was sharp. "You're too weak, Clara. The ritual drained you. Stay here. Recover." Clara's frustration boiled over. "I'm not sitting this out. They're scared because of this house, because of me. I need to face them." Lydia nodded, her face resolute. "She's right. The town's part of this now. We can't keep them in the dark." Samuel hesitated, then nodded. "Stay close, girl." The Hollow's watching. They descended to the foyer, Sarah carried by Harlan, her small form limp but breathing. The crowd outside was visible through the window, their torches casting flickering light across the lawn, their voices a chorus of fear and anger. Tom stood at the front, his pitchfork raised. The woman with the wild hair, Sarah's mother, beside him, her face streaked with tears. Margaret opened the door, her voice calm but strained. "Tom, put that down. We've got Sarah, and we're fighting this thing." The crowd's voices rose, a mix of relief and fury as Harlan carried Sarah forward. Her mother rushed to her, sobbing, but her eyes widened as she saw Sarah's clouded gaze. "What's wrong with her?" she demanded. "What did you do?" Clara stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "The Hollow's in her, but we're trying to stop it. I did a ritual to strengthen the seal, but it's not enough. We need your help." Tom's face hardened, his pitchfork lowering slightly. "Help. Your family caused this, girl. That house is a curse, and we're ending it tonight." The crowd roared, their torches flaring, and Clara felt the hum surge, the whispers laughing. "Clara, let them come." She clutched the text, her arm throbbing, and raised her voice. "Burning the house won't stop it. The Hollow's older than this place, older than us. We need to work together." Harlan stepped between them, his hand raised. "Enough. Nobody's burning anything. We're handling this, but you need to go home." The crowd hesitated, but the hum surged again, a low rumble that shook the ground, the torches flickering wildly. The whispers grew louder, and Clara saw it a shadow, fleeting but unmistakable. Moving through the crowd, its limbs too long, its head featureless. The townsfolk gasped, some dropping their torches, others backing away. "It's here," Samuel whispered, his walking stick trembling. The Hollow slipping through, Clara's heart pounded, her vision blurring, the ritual's toll weighing on her. She knew the night was far from over, and the Hollow was only beginning to show its power. The lawn of Henshaw House was a chaos of flickering torches and panicked voices, the crowd's anger teetering on the edge of violence. Clara stood at the threshold, her arm burning from the ritual's sigil, the hum a relentless pulse in her ears, the whispers mocking. "Clara, you cannot hold us." Sarah's mother clutched her daughter, tears streaming down her face, while Tom's pitchfork gleamed in the torchlight, his eyes blazing with fear and fury. Harlan's voice boomed, trying to calm the crowd. But the shadow Clara had seen, its limbs too long, its presence a weight, had shaken them, driving their fear into frenzy. Before the crowd could surge forward, a new figure emerged from the mist, striding through the townsfolk with a confidence that silenced their murmurs. He was tall, in his 30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that gleamed with an unsettling intensity. His coat was worn but tailored, and he carried a leather satchel, its straps etched with faint spirals. The hum seemed to shift as he approached, a subtle change that made Clara's skin prickle. "Who's that?" Lydia whispered, her hand tightening on her own satchel. Margaret's face paled, her voice low. Nathaniel Gray. He's a descendant of the Grays, an old family with their own ties to the Hollow. Nathaniel stopped before the crowd, his gaze sweeping over them before settling on Clara. Clara Henshaw, he said, his voice smooth, but edged with something dark. I've been waiting to meet you. Clara's heart pounded. The hum was surging faintly. Who are you? What do you want? Nathaniel's lips curved into a half smile, his eyes unyielding. I'm here for the same reason you are the Hollow. My family's known about it for centuries, just like yours. But unlike the Henshaws, we don't believe in caging it. We want to set it free. The crowd murmured, their fear shifting to confusion. Tom's voice was sharp. What the hell's he talking about? Margaret? Another one of your family's secrets? Margaret's voice was cold. The Greys were always trouble. They wanted the Hollow's power, just like Elias, but they were reckless. They caused the first disappearances before Abigail. Nathaniel's smile didn't waver. Reckless. We understood the Hollow's potential. It's not a monster, it's a force. A gateway to knowledge beyond this world. The Henshaws locked it away, but it's time to open the seal. Clara's stomach twisted, the memory of Abigail's black eyes flashing through her mind. You're insane, she said, her voice trembling. The Hollow's dangerous. It's taken people, kids. It's in Sarah right now. Nathaniel's eyes flicked to Sarah, still in her mother's arms, her clouded gaze unfocused. A pity, he said, his voice devoid of warmth. But sacrifices are necessary. The Hollow demands a price, and your family's been paying it for too long. Harlan stepped forward, his hand on his holster. That's enough. I don't know who you are, but you're not helping. Get out of here. Nathaniel's smile widened, his hand slipping into his satchel. I'm not leaving, Sheriff. Not until the seal is opened. He pulled out a stone fragment, its surface gleaming like the one in the attic, pulsing in time with the hum. Lydia's face paled. Another anchor. Where did you get that? Nathaniel's eyes gleamed. The Greys have their own relics, collected over centuries. This one's specialite was taken from the well, long before your family sealed it. Samuel's voice was grim, his walking stick trembling. You're a fool, Gray. The Hollow will consume you, like it did your ancestors. Nathaniel's laugh was cold, echoing in the mist. My ancestors were weak. I'm not, he raised. The stone and the hum surged, a wave that shook the ground, the torches flickering wildly. The crowd gasped, some dropping their weapons, others backing away. Clara's head throbbed, the whispers growing louder. Clara, he speaks for us. She clutched the Wabanaki text, her arm burning, and stepped forward. You're not opening anything, she said, her voice steady despite her fear. I'll stop you. Nathaniel's eyes locked on hers, a challenge in his gaze. We'll see, Clara. The Hollow's awake, and it's chosen you. You can't fight your blood. The hum roared, the ground trembling, and Clara felt the house behind her, its presence await, watching, waiting. Nathaniel turned, disappearing into the mist, the crowd partying around him. Clara's heart pounded, the ritual's toll weighing on her, but she knew the fight was far from over. The crowd dispersed into the mist, their torches fading, leaving Henshaw House shrouded in an uneasy silence. Clara stood in the foyer, her arm throbbing from the ritual's sigil, the Wabanaki text clutched to her chest. The hum was a constant pressure, weaving through the whispers that taunted her. Clara, he is right. Nathaniel Gray's words echoed. In her mind, his promise to open the seal, a new threat that tightened a knot in her stomach. Margaret, Lydia, Harlan, and Samuel gathered around her, their faces tense, while Sarah's mother sat with her daughter, whispering reassurances. Harlan's voice was gruff, his radio crackling. Who the hell was that guy? And what's this? About opening the seal. Margaret's face was pale, her hands trembling. Nathaniel Gray is dangerous. His family tried to harness the Hollow's power centuries ago, before Elias. They caused chaos disappearances, Madness. We thought they were gone. Lydia's eyes narrowed, her satchel open on the table. He's got a stone, like the one in the attic. If he's collecting anchors, he could break the seal without Clara. Samuel leaned on his walking stick, his voice low. The Greys always wanted the Hollow's power. They believe it's a god, a source of knowledge. They're fools. Clara's head throbbed, the hum surging faintly. He said it's chosen me. What does that mean? Clara nodded, her hands trembling as she pressed the dagger to her skin, the blade biting deep. Pain flared, blood welling, and she began the chants, the words heavy with power. The hum roared, the spiral flaring, and the chamber shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The whispers screamed, a chorus of rage. Clara, ... You cannot win, ... Her vision blurred, the chamber fading. And she was back in the Hollow's world, the barren plain, the red sky, Abigail, Sarah, and Elias standing before her, their black eyes gleaming. A new figure joined them, Nathaniel Gray, his smile cold, the stone fragment in his hand pulsing. You're wasting your time, Clara, he said, his voice layered with the hollows. The seal will break, and we'll be free. Clara's hand trembled, the dagger cutting deeper, blood dripping onto the spiral. You're wrong, she said, her voice breaking. I'll stop you. The vision snapped, the chamber returning, the hum, a storm in her head. She finished the sigil, the spiral carved into her skin, and spoke the final chant, her voice echoing in the chamber. The spiral flared, its light blinding, and the hum surged, a wave that knocked her to her knees. The whispers screamed, the bones along the walls rattling, and Clara felt the Hollow's rage, its hunger, trying to drag her into its world. Margaret's hands gripped her shoulders, her voice desperate. Hold on, Clara. You're almost there. Clara's body trembled, her will straining, blood pooling on the spiral. The light flared again, and for a moment, the hum quieted, the whispers fading. The seal pulsed, its cracks narrowing, the chamber stabilizing. Clara gasped, her vision clearing, but the effort left her weak, her body shaking. Lydia's face was pale, her flashlight trembling. Did it work? Samuel's eyes narrowed, his voice grim. The seal's holding, but the Hollow's not done. It's angry. Arlen's voice was shaky. We need to get out of here, now. But before they could move, a new sound echoed through the chamber low. Guttural laugh, not human, coming from the walls themselves. The hum surged, the spiral flaring, and Clara felt it a presence, vast and ancient, watching her, waiting for her to falter. Asterisk, the deeper chamber beneath Henshaw House glowed with a sickly green light, pulsing faintly from the massive spiral seal etched into the stone floor. Clara knelt before it, her hands trembling, her blood still wet in its grooves from the ritual. The Wabanaki chants she'd recited lingered in her mind, their rhythm a fragile thread holding back the hum, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the earth. Around her, Margaret, Lydia, Harlan, and Samuel stood in silence, their faces drawn, the scattered bones along the walls a grim testament to the Hollow's reach. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of damp stone and something older, something alive. Clara's body ached, her strength sapped by the ritual, the sigils carved into her arms, stinging with every heartbeat. The seal's cracks had narrowed, but the hum persisted, a low thrum that whispered of unrest. She rose unsteadily, meeting the eyes of her companions. We need to get out of here, she rasped. It's not finished. Harlan nodded, his hand resting on his holster. Agreed. This place feels wrong more than before. They ascended the cramped staircase to the cellar, the hum growing louder with each step, the walls pressing in as if alive. In the kitchen above, Sarah lay on a cot, her breathing shallow but steady, her mother murmuring soft words. The girl's eyes fluttered open, cloudy but clearing, and she whispered, "Clara, it's still here. I feel it." Clara's chest tightened. The vision of Sarah and Abigail, their black eyes staring through her, flashed in her mind. "We're fighting it," she said gently. "You're safe now." But the house groaned, a deep, shuddering sound that rattled the windows and made the floorboards creak. The hum surged, a wave of pressure that pressed against Clara's skull, and the whispers returned. "Clara, you cannot hold us." Lydia's flashlight trembled in her hand. "It's pushing back." The ritual stirred it up. Samuel gripped his walking stick, his voice steady but grave. "The Hollow's awake now. We've only bought time." A sharp crack split the air outside, followed by a gust of wind that shook the house. Harlan strode to the door, peering into the night. "What in God's name?" Clara joined him on the porch, her breath catching. The sky was a bruised swirl of purple and green, clouds twisting in unnatural patterns. The mist that had cloaked Eldamore had lifted, leaving a stillness that felt wrong, heavy. Then she saw it a shimmer in the air, like a mirage, rippling across the lawn. It left a trail of frost in its wake, the grass snapping brittle under an unseen weight. "What is that?" Clara whispered, her skin prickling. Margaret's voice was hushed, the Hollow's reaching out. "It's bending the world." The ripple surged toward the house, the air growing frigid, Clara's breath clouding before her. The porch light flickered and died, plunging them into shadow. Harlan's flashlight beam caught the ripple as it thickened, forming a figure tall, its head a void, just like the shadow in the cellar. The hum roared in Clara's ears, the whispers sharpening. "Clara, you belong to us." Her heart raced as the shadow glided closer, its presence a suffocating weight. Harlan drew his gun, his voice shaking. "Back off, I'll shoot." It didn't stop. Clara's vision blurred, the porch fading into the hollows. Realm the red sky, the barren plain, Abigail and Sarah standing before her. Their voices a unison hiss. "Join us, Clara." "No," she choked, clawing back to reality. The shadow loomed inches away, laughing a sound like shattering glass. Harlan fired, the shot echoing uselessly as the bullet passed through it, splintering the porch rail. The shadow dissolved, leaving frost and silence. Clara stumbled back, gasping. "It's playing with us. It's stronger now." Lydia's face was ashen. The ritual held it, but not enough. "We need more." Samuel's eyes darkened. The Wabanaki warned of this. When it's roused, it twists everything time, space US. The house groaned again, and Clara's watch caught her eye. Its hands spun wildly, the numbers meaningless. "Time's breaking," she said, her voice trembling. "It's unraveling." Margaret paled. "We need to reinforce the seal before it tears through." But a new sound froze them, a guttural moan from the woods, low and rising. Shadows emerged, dozens of them, their forms warped, their eyes glowing green. The hum swelled, the whispers a chorus. "Clara, we are coming." Asterisk the woods birthed shadows, their twisted forms slinking toward Henshaw House, their eyes aglow with the Hollow's malice. Clara gripped the porch rail, the hum pounding in her skull, the whispers taunting. "Clara, you cannot stop us." Frost crept across the lawn, the air biting with unnatural cold. Harlan's gun trembled in his hand, Lydia's flashlight flickered, and Samuel's knuckles whitened on his stick. "They're the Hollow's hands," Samuel said grimly. "It's testing the seal." Lydia's voice cut through the chill. "Inside, now. They can't breach the house yet." They retreated, barricading the door as shadows pressed against the windows, their shapes smearing like ink. The hum pulsed, the whispers insistent. "Clara, let us in." She clutched the Wabanaki text, her arm throbbing, and faced her companions. "The seal's weakening," she said, "and Nathaniel's out there, pulling strings." Margaret's jaw tightened. "He wants the Hollow's power. If he's using the anchors, he could break it wide open." Harlan's radio crackled. his deputy's voice frantic. "Sheriff, town's losing its shadows everywhere. Gray's riling folks up, saying the house has to go." Harlan cursed, gripping the radio. "Tom's with him, I bet. We've got to stop this." Clara's stomach churned. Nathaniel's calm, cruel smile haunted her. "He's turning the town into his weapon," she said, "to wear us down." Lydia nodded sharply. "We find him, end this before he does." Samuel's voice was low. "The well. That's where the anchors are strongest, where he'll strike." Clara steeled herself, the hum buzzing faintly. "Then we go." Now, they armed themselves. Harlan's gun, Lydia's crowbar, Samuel's stick, Clara's text, and a lit dagger. Margaret stayed, her voice firm. "I'll guard the house. Keep Sarah safe. Don't die out there." The night was a shroud, the well, a dark maw at the property's edge. Nathaniel stood before it, the stone fragment in his hand pulsing green, surrounded by townsfolk wielding torches and tools. Tom led them, his pitchfork raised, his voice booming. "Gray's right, Sheriff. Burn the house. End this curse." Harlan stepped forward, gun drawn. "Stand down. Tom, you're being played." Nathaniel's smile was ice. "Played? No, Sheriff. I'm offering salvation. The Hollow's power belongs to those bold enough to take it." Clara's voice shook, but held firm. "It's a lie, Nathaniel. It'll devour you, like it did Elias." His laugh cut the air, the stone flaring. Elias faltered. "I won't. The anchors are mine." He raised the stone, and the hum erupted, the ground quaking. Shadows writhed from the well, their forms sharpening, their eyes hungry. The townsfolk faltered, some fleeing, others frozen. Lydia shouted, "He's breaking the seal. Stop him." Clara lunged, dagger in hand, but Nathaniel flung the stone into the well. It vanished with a flare, the hum roaring, a moan rising from the depths. Nathaniel's eyes gleamed. "It's begun." The ground trembled, the shadows surging, and Clara knew the Hollow was clawing free. The vision snapped, Clara stumbling back into the attic, her heart racing. Lydia's hand steadied her, her voice urgent. "Clara, you're bleeding." Clara glanced down, her nose dripping crimson onto the floorboards. "It's getting stronger," she whispered. "It's in my head." Samuel's voice was grim. "It's feeding on your fear. Clara, you need to rest." Clara shook her head, her resolve hardening. "Not until we find a solution. There has to be something in these journals." They searched through the night, their eyes burning with fatigue, their hands stained with dust and ink. By dawn, Clara found a passage in Ilias's journal, tucked between frantic scrawls. "The Hollow is bound to the Henshaw bloodline. It grows with each generation, feeding on our strength. To destroy it, we must sever the tie-break the bloodlines hold." Clara's heart raced, her voice trembling. "Sever the tie. What does that mean?" Lydia's eyes narrowed. "Maybe a ritual town bend, the Hollow from your family, but it could be dangerous." Nathaniel's voice was low, his gaze fixed on Clara. "Or it could mean ending the bloodline. No more Henshaws, no more Hollow." Clara's blood ran cold, her voice sharp. "That's not happening. I'm not letting it win like that." But as she spoke, the house groaned, the wall shifting, and from the shadows, a figure emerged, tall, cloaked, their face hidden, their voice a hiss. "You're right, Clara. It's not that simple." Clara's heart pounded, her voice trembling. "Who are you?" The figure lowered their hood, revealing a face Clara knew, her father, long dead, his eyes black, his smile cruel. "Hello, Clara. I've been waiting." The attic was a prison of dust and shadow, the air thick with the scent of old paper and fear. Clara stood frozen, her heart pounding, the hum a relentless roar in her ears. Her father, dead 4 years, stood before her, his black eyes gleaming, his smile a twisted mockery of the man she'd loved. The whispers wove through the hum, taunting. Clara, you cannot escape your blood. Lydia's voice was sharp, her crowbar raised. Clara, it's not him. It's the hollow. But Clara's voice trembled, her legs weak. Dad, how? The figure's smile widened, his voice alarmable. The hollow keeps what it takes. Clara, I've been here, waiting for you. Harlan's gun was drawn, his voice gruff. Back off, whatever you are. The figure laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You can't stop what's coming, Sheriff. The bloodline's curse. He's unbreakable. Clara's resolve hardened, her voice steady desperate, her fear. What curse? What did you do? The figure's eyes locked on hers, his tone cold. The Henshaws made a pact long ago. Power for service. But the hollow's price was our souls. Clara's stomach churned, her voice low. Your Leeing mom would have told me. The figure's smile was cruel. Your mother tried to break it, but she failed. Now it's your turn. The hum surged, the house shaking, and Clara's vision blurred, the attic fading. She was back, in the hollow's world, her father standing before her, his black eyes gleaming. Join us, Clara, Hugh whispered. It's your destiny. Clara's breath hitched, her voice trembling. No, I'll break the curse. The figure's laugh was sharp, his form flickering. You can't. It's in your blood. The vision? Snapped, Clara stumbling back and teeth at it, her heart racing. Lydia's hands steadied her, her voice urgent. Clara, you need to focus. It's trying to break you. Clara's head throbbed, the hum, a storm in Herman. I need to know the truth about the pact, the curse. They searched through the journals, their hands moving with desperate speed. By midday, Samuel found a Tay letter from Elias, tucked in a hidden compartment. To my descendants, the hollow was summoned by our ancestor, Jonathan Henshaw. In 1750, he bargained for wealth and power, but the price was our bloodline servitude. Each generation must serve or be consumed. Clara's blood ran cold, her voice low. So it's true, we're tied to it. Lydia's voice was sharp. But your mother, Trido, break it. There must be a way. Nathaniel's gaze was cold, his tone flat. Or maybe it's time to end the bloodline. No Henshaws, no curse. Clara's glare cut through him, her voice sharp. I'm not dying for this thing. We'll find another way. But as she spoke, the house groaned, the wall shifting, and from the shadows, a new figure emerged. Margaret, her eyes wide, her hands trembling. Clara, she whispered, it's happening again. The hollow's reaching out. Clara's heart pounded, her voice trembling. What do you mean? Margaret's face was pale, her voice shaking. The town animals are missing. The weather's turning. It's like before, when Hollow woke. Clara's resolve hardened. Then we act fast, when need to find a way to break the pact. They spent the day combing through the Wabanaka texts, their eyes burning with fatigue. By dusk, Lydia found it's a passage of Buddha, chosen one, a Henshaw who could either destroy the hollow or become its vessel. Clara's heart raced, her voice low. That's me, isn't it? The chosen one? Samuel's voice was grim. The prophecy says thy chosen will face the hollow alone in its world. If they win, the pact breaks. If they lose, Clara's stomach twisted. It takes me. Nathaniel's voice was cold. Then don't lose. The hum surged, the house shaking, and Cleric knew time was running out. Asterisk, the library was a cavern of flickering candlelight, the air thick with the scent of wax and fear. Clara sat at the table, the Wabanaki text open before her, the prophecies. Words burned into her mind. The chosen will face the hollow alone in its world. Her hands trembled, the hum a constant pressure, the whispers weaving through her thoughts. Clara, you're ours. Lydia's voice was sharp, her eyes wide. Yoken, do this, Clara. It's suicide. Clara's gaze was steady, her voice low. It's the only way to break the pact. I have to try. Harlan's hand rested on his holster 18, his tone gruff. We'll go with you. You're not facing it alone. But Samuel shook his head, his walking stick tapping the floor. The prophecies. Clear it's her burden. We can't follow. Nathaniel's voice was cold. Then give her what she needs to win. Clara's resolve hardened, her voice steady. I need to know how to fight it in its world. They spent the night training, Samuel teaching her the Wabanaki chants, Lydia sharpening her focus, Harlan giving her a knife heached with runes. By dawn, Clara stood in the deeper chamber, the seal glowing fondly, her heart pounding. I'm ready, she said, her voice trembling. Let's do this. She began the chants, her voice steady, the seal flaring, the air growing cold. The hum surged, the whispers a storm. Clara, come to us. Her vision blurred, the chamber fading, and she was back in Hollow's world, the red sky, the barren plain, the spiral at its heart. But she wasn't alone. Shadows moved at the edges, their forms twisted, their eyes gleaming, and before her stood their cloaked figure, their smile cruel. Welcome, Clara, they hissed. You've come at play. Clara's knife was steady, her voice sharp. I've come to end this. The figure laughed, their stone pulsing. Thinlets begin. The shadows lunged, their claws slashing. But Clara's chants held them at bay, her knife flashing. She fought with everything she had, her strength waning. The hum a storm in her head. But as she struck the final blow, the figure vanished, their laugh echoing. You've won nothing, Clara. The Hollow's still here. The world dissolved, Clara collapsing back into the chamber, her breath ragged. Lydia's hand steadied her, her voice urgent. Clara, did it work? Clara's voice was hoarse. I don't know. It's still there, but weaker. But as she spoke, the seal flared, the cracks narrowing, the hum quieting. Clara's heart lifted, hope flickering. It's working, she whispered. I'm winning. But then, a sharp crack echoed from above, followed by a scream. Sarah, her voice shrill with terror. Clara's blood ran cold as she ran to the kitchen, her breath catching at the sight. Sarah stood in the center, her eyes wide, her small hands clutching a stone pulsing faintly, its light sickly green. Clara, she whispered, her voice trembling. It's calling me. Asterisk. The kitchen was a tableau of dread, the air thick with the scent of fear and decay. The dim light casting long shadows across the floor. Clara stood frozen, her heart pounding, the hum a relentless pulse in her ears. Sarah's small hands clutched the stone, its sickly green light pulsing in time with the hum, her eyes wide with terror. Margaret's voice broke, her hands trembling. Sarah, drop it, please. But Sarah's voice was a whisper, her gaze fixed in Clara. It's talking to me, Clara. It says it needs me. Clara's stomach churned, her voice steady despite her fear. Sarah, listen to me. You're stronger than it. Fight. It. The stone flared, the hum surging, and Clara's vision blurred, the kitchen fading. She was back in the Hollow's world, the redsky looming, the barren plain stretching endlessly. Before her stood the cloaked figure, their smile cruel, their voice a hiss. Clara, you've fought well, but it's time to choose. Clara's knife was steady, her voice sharp. Choose what? The figure's eyes gleamed. Sacrifice yourself, and the Hollow will sleep forever. Refuse, and Eldermore burns. Clara's breath hitched, her heart pounding. You're lying. It's a trick. The figure's laugh was cold, their stone pulsing. Is it? Look around you, Clara. The town's already crumbling. Clara, gaze swept the plain, her blood running cold. Shadows moved at the edges, their forms familiar townsfolk, their eyes black, their smiles twisted. Tom, Doris, even Amos, all trapped in the Hollow's grasp. No, Clara whispered, her voice breaking. I won't let you take them. The figure's smile widened, Then give yourself to us. It's the only way. The vision snapped. Clara back in the kitchen, her breath ragged. Lydia's voice was urgent. Clara, what did you see? Clara's voice trembled. It gave me a choice: sacrifice myself or watch the town burn. Nathaniel's voice was sharp. It's a trap, Clara. Don't trust it. But Clara's resolve wavered, her eyes fixed on Sarah, the stone still pulsing in her hands. If I don't, it'll take her on to Virion else. Lydia's hands gripped, her shoulders, her voice fierce. We'll find another way. You're not doing this alone. But as she spoke, the house shook, the walls warping, the floorboards buckling. The hum roared, the whispers a chorus. Clara, choose. Clara's heart pounded, her voice trembling. I have to. It's the only way. She stepped forward, her hand reaching for Thustone. But as her fingers brushed it, the air shifted, the kitchen dissolving, and she was trapped in the hollows. World, the figures laugh, echoing. Too late, Clara. The choice is made. The ground cracked, the spiral flaring, and Clara realized she was out of time. Thank you for listening. Make sure to subscribe to this channel to keep listening to this type of stories. Make sure drop a like if you like the stories, and drop comments on what you guys want to hear. Till that time, take care of yourself, and have a good night.